This episode of the Flush Podcast is brought to you by OnX Hunt, Marshwear Clothing, Walton's, Aluma Trailers, and by Hoxie Native Seeds. Today, Ben Brettingen from OnX Hunt and Hannah Petersen from Mud Lake Kennels are in studio for an a la carte spring training episode. We'll preview a few things that we're looking forward to next week at Pheasant Fest in Kansas City. OnX updates, Ben's new role on the board at the Rough Grouse Society. Plus, we'll discuss bird dog training in depth with Hannah and how it translates into the woods, fields, and spring cover dog trials. Plus, I've got a little upland trivia to kickstart today's show. Welcome to another episode of the Flush Podcast. I'm Travis Frank. Big Al is hiding behind the camera over there. He is our producer, Ben Brettingen from OnX Hunt. Welcome to the Roost. Hannah Petersen from Mud Lake Kennels. Very excited having you guys both in today. I'm really more excited to have Hannah in, if I'm being honest.
No, for sure.
You and I have spent a lot of time together lately, but it's been quality.
It has been good.
And I think my favorite thing out of the last week spent with you is that you showed up to the Pheasants Forever banquet with a mustache.
Yes. I saw we were out fishing
Yeah.
on Friday and I saw your mustache and I was like, oh man, he looks so cool. I have to do that too.
So we posted a couple of videos online and everybody's just talking about the stash. So I think we just have to keep it going for a little bit longer. Hannah, he grows just the thickest mustache ever of all time. And we were
I don't think I've ever seen you with just a mustache.
I did. And I couldn't take my eyes off of it. We were at grouse camp last December, 2 Decembers ago. He shows up and just the most perfect broom on top of his lip.
It was out of control.
It was. I don't know how long it took, but you grow facial hair like nobody else I've ever seen.
Do you ever want to grow it to curl it?
No,
That's what Kyle tries to get to, and I don't love it. But
you don't?
No, it's not my favorite.
So this is actually my wife's idea. She wanted me to do the stash. So
I have a friend that really likes mustaches too. I don't know. I'm indifferent.
My wife loves it.
Yeah,
well, but you can't have it all the time.
So here's a funny thing. So you and I, we emceed our local Pheasants Forever banquet on Saturday night, and I got the blaze orange blazer jacket, and so I pull it out from the hanger, and she goes, "No." I'm like, "What do you mean, no?" She's like, "You can't have both the mustache and the jacket. It's too much."
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't spoken to her since.
You need a smart woman like that.
Yeah, she keeps me in line. But I was thinking, there's too much of a good thing? You can't have both?
Well, people get the wrong idea at that point. You got the blazer, the mustache. You're like, whoa, this is Carver County, pretty modest here. I mean, maybe if we were in the Twin Cities or something, but not in Carver County.
No, you're right. So we got to spend Saturday night together up on the stage. And I think, do you have a takeaway from the banquet? Any highlights for you?
I mean, they put on a great banquet. I mean, there's lots of great chapters across the country, but Carver County is one. I mean, in 2024, they were the best banquet.
They were the chapter in Minnesota.
I drove past. I almost wanted to stop in. I saw your truck
what
out
in
there.
the world?
You drove past and you didn't stop?
Yeah, I was going down to Mankato because it was in Cologne, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I was thinking about it. I was going to send you a picture. I didn't know if I'd be let in because I'm not a member, so I didn't know
he
if
didn't have the stash and the blazer.
He's got a stash.
Not the blazer.
No blazer.
I didn't know if I could just be like, oh yeah, I'm with Travis.
So when we go to Pheasant Fest, you're going to wear the blazer.
Okay.
You're going to clean up and just keep the stash and go with the blazer.
I'll clean up the sides on the neckbeard for sure.
Yeah, and ladies will be all over you. I know you have a girlfriend, Big Al, but just
she doesn't
tell
listen
her
every day. It'll be okay.
Yeah. So anyway, Pheasant Fest next week. I thought we would kick off today's episode with a little bit of trivia because we've got our 4th annual trivia night, Friday night in Kansas City this year. It's March 7th at Border Brewing Company. So this is, I don't know, I'm told a couple blocks away from the convention center where the event is being held, or where Pheasant Fest and Quail Classic is being held.
You should be able to walk there from the convention center as far as I know.
All right, good to know. Again, we've talked about it the last couple of weeks, but I believe the brewing company says that we have room for about 100 people. So if you've been coming the last couple of years, then you already know you need to get there maybe just a little bit early to make sure you save a seat. If you've never been, I guess I would encourage you to make sure that you're there and give yourself a little bit of extra time to make sure you get a seat. Otherwise, it might be standing room. I'm not entirely sure. Every year it's in a different location, so it depends, I suppose, on how many people are wanting to travel to Kansas City. But it's been a ton of fun. We have held the trivia the last couple of years, and I enjoy it. I kind of like putting it together. The contestants are once again Tyler Webster, George Lyle, and Scott Franz.
Scott and
Tyler
George might not enjoy it very much.
And George has just been on a heater.
Well, I mean, when you give them the questions ahead of time.
I know. That's what everyone's saying, foul play. I'm like, no. There's no foul play here.
Well, that's how I got my lifetime ban from the Flush Podcast trivia.
Well, we're going to get into why you haven't been able to be on stage with us yet, because I've been trying to get you up on stage the last couple of years, and you've got a huge event going that night too, the after party. And so you've got to get everything ready for that beforehand, which is where we go after we leave the brewery, is we're going to the OnX after party. So we'll get into that in a minute, but I think we should start this out, Hannah. Are you okay if we start out with a couple of trivia questions?
We'll see how I do.
So this will get people kind of in the mindset of how this is going to go up on the stage. And I do want everybody to know that's listening, if you're coming to the trivia night, we do have giveaways, and you get to be a part of the trivia, because these answers don't always get answered correctly by the three contestants. Yes, exactly. Even though George does a good job, and Scott and Tyler, I mean, I think, well, George has just been dominating. And then Tyler and Scott have kind of been, like, Scott was close the first year, and then when he lost it and the controversy, he just hasn't been able to rebound.
It's hard to get that confidence back after a blow
lost
like
it.
that.
Yeah, exactly. And so George is just, he's riding high, you know? And so if they get the questions wrong, the audience gets to come up and answer the question. And
so could the audience win?
yeah, so the audience last year, they take home, I think, like a Roughlin kennel,
sure,
nice.
Chief Upland vest, gun cases, case of shells, OnX Elite memberships. I mean, we have prizes that fit our audience, I think, pretty well. And they get to come up, answer the question, and they get to take home a prize. Plus, the heckling is really a lot of fun. And we raised a couple $1,000s last year for Pheasants Forever, because people started feeling pretty good about themselves. So they get a little sauced up, and all of a sudden, I've got money on the line. George, you know, actually it was Tyler. He goes, let's put some money on this, you know, big talker. And pretty soon he's losing. And then Scott's like, I'll double down. So then the audience, they said, if you guys will throw in $1,000, I'll match it. And before you know it, they're all feeling good, strutting.
Nice.
And we raise a few grand for Pheasants Forever.
There needs to be, like, somebody needs to take under their wing, like an informal Calcutta. Start betting on people. You could win some serious money there. Donate some serious money.
I think, well, if I'm listening to Tyler Webster's podcast lately, there's been a lot of chatter about this. They're trying to figure out if there's been any clues or any, you know, any under the table type stuff. So they're going to be in the audience trying to figure out, how is George doing it? All right, enough about it. We'll see you at Border Brewing, I hope, on Friday, March 7th. But for our show today, I'm going to kick it off with this. Okay, here's how the Upland Trivia goes. All right. So in the real contest, there's like 13 rounds or items. And each item has 6 clues that I'm going to give you to get to the answer. Okay. Your name is your buzzer. You get 1 guess each round. So the key is you have to decide how early you want to jump in to guess it. If you guess incorrectly, you're out for the rest of the round. If you listen to the Power Trip Morning Show on KFan, that's where I got this from. It's very similar to the initials game. There's no initials in this, but I lead you to the answer.
Gotcha.
Through the clues that I give, and then you have to decide when you can do it. Al, Big Al, you're welcome to join in on this as well.
Okay.
You haven't heard these before.
No, I have not.
Okay. All right. Item number 1. You guys ready? Your name is your buzzer.
Okay.
All right. Clue number 1. The opposite of follow. I should tell you, these are anything bird hunting, bird dog, or anything in the upland world related items. Okay. Clue number 1. The opposite of follow. Clue number 2, heel.
So if I want to guess it, I just say my name?
Yeah.
Alex. Fetch.
Man. You're out for the remainder of the round. Big Al.
Ben, I'm going to do it. Lead. Wonder lead? I don't know. What do you want? Leash?
No, it is Wonder Lead.
That's what I was going to say too.
Clue number 3 was pig and string.
Okay.
Clue number 4 was silent command. Approximately 7.5 feet. Made famous by legendary dog trainer Delmar Smith.
What if I would have said command lead?
I would have probably accepted that. I did have this one last year. It was the first question. Scott was all mad. He goes, leash. And I said, no. And then afterwards, he threw a tantrum because he said, it's a leash. And everybody was like, it is not a leash.
No,
not
it's a very
leash at all.
particular.
Yep.
I was definitely there, but I was like, let me just get one more just to be sure.
Yeah, exactly. And when you said lead, I was like, I suppose I give it to him. But otherwise, if you
would
don't
you
get,
have actually given that to me on stage?
I don't know. I probably wouldn't
not.
have. No.
Yeah.
And then you have to, because like on the morning show, it's got to be pronounced correctly,
Right.
you know. And so I would have said no, and then I would have said pig and string, and then you'd have probably gotten it right there, Hannah. So the Wonder Lead, developed by Delmar Smith, is one of the most important tools in the silent command training system. The Wonder Lead is made out of a flexible plastic material known as pig and string that provides instant communication between you and your dog, helping any breed of dog learn how to heel, stand still, and go with you. All right. So I guess technically Ben gets a point there. If this was official, the crowd would be going nuts. Yeah, you got that one wrong. All right. Item number 2. Ready?
Yep.
Lagopus. Al, you're back in, by the way.
Yeah, I figured.
Did
But
you-
you lost
Did
me.
you pronounce
lost me.
that right? You didn't pronounce it
know
right.
if I did. I'm not sure.
I was
Clue
going to
number
say
2.
you lost me already.
Yeah. Cryptic colors change. Number 3. Which, Al, you see this dead silence? You're going to need to come up with some like background music, like game show music.
Like Jeopardy music?
Yeah, pretty
And
much.
you need the
Yep.
initials like
Yeah.
question number 1.
Number 1. Clue number 3.
Yeah.
Croaker. Clue number 4. Feathered feet.
Ptarmigan. Ben Ptarmigan.
Ben wins it.
I wasn't
Yep.
going to get that.
Clue number 5 was 3 species. Clue number 6, alpine tundra. There are 3 ptarmigan species in the world: the willow, rock, and white-tailed ptarmigan. I would have accepted all 3 of those answers. Within those species, there are 20 to 30 subspecies. The male rock ptarmigan makes a croaking sound like a frog, which I actually heard in Alaska. It's pretty cool. They prefer to use camouflage over flight to avoid their predators, which is why some hunters think they're a stupid bird. From my own personal experience, a ptarmigan is delicious and best enjoyed while on the side of a picturesque mountain watching sheep.
Thankfully, that's where they live.
It is an amazing place. All
So
right,
you can experience that.
let's see. Your item number 3, and this will be the last one, and then we're going to move on. Okay, ready? Clue number 1, money for sex. Money for sex. Clue number 2, I like to dance. Clue number 3, I like warm winters. Clue number 4, 60% of the time, worms work every time.
Hannah, come on.
Come on, Anna. Clue number 5, I like the forest. You know what?
I'm out.
Nothing.
Clue number 6, I fly by night. Anna.
I should have guessed on the first one, so I was on the board.
It's be your timber doodle.
That would be the American woodcock.
The worms should have given it to
Should have
me.
been.
Yeah.
And you can sex
was
them with
really-
a $1 bill. You
I
sex
see.
them. Yeah, there
See,
it's
I
all
was just
together.
really hung up on that first one. I was like,
Money for
I
sex.
can't. Yeah, I can't get past that. I was not expecting that.
That one threw me for a loop.
That's the whole
That's
point.
all that was-
Surprisingly, I just
that was
forgot about that one completely.
Really? Yeah. So sometimes you take a clue and you
It's like-
you like think about it, but then you just have to move on from it, and you put them all together. So yeah, I like to dance. The spring mating ritual includes a sky
now it all
dance.
Makes sense.
Yep. I like warm winters. They migrate south. 60% of their diet is worms. They like to live in the forest, and they fly at night.
I'm so bummed right now.
Why?
Because I want to be there.
I know
Friday
you feel
night.
like you could.
Because I play the initials game like every single week. So
yeah.
it's like, oh man,
it's fun.
These chumps over here.
So I think when we have they're on the table, and then I'm kind of positioned, so I'm looking at them. And you might think you're ready to answer it, but if you answer it wrong, like Big Al, he's out.
Right.
And then the next clue, you're like, oh my goodness. So
I feel like I overthink the clues, and that's my problem.
I for sure did on that last one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
There's
good.
not a lot going on up here. So.
No, and that's why you're good at it. That's why you'd be good at it. So we need to get you in there. I told Tyler and Scott, this is it. If you guys can't take George down or at least make it interesting, you're out.
And George is getting old.
We don't even know if he's going to be
old.
there for next year, right? Exactly.
Like, he's slowing down.
Oh, all right. Also called a timberdoodle, the American woodcock is known for their spring sky dance and their back and forth boogie. Hunters can sex them in the field with a dollar bill. 60% of their diet is made up of worms, and they migrate south each winter, flying at night. Females will generally have a beak longer than the width of a dollar bill, while males' snouts will not extend past the width of a paper bill. All right. So that's kind of the gist of how this game goes.
Yeah, that's
it
fun.
gets heated. They get angry at each other. They get mad at me. They yell foul play. I drop the hammer and say final. And,
Did you use that one before the dollar bill one? The money for sex?
Yeah, all three of these were from last year's show.
Okay, I was
or
gonna
the
say,
year prior. So I just
hope-
grabbed 3 of them, and they're not going to be on this year's show. So I just wanted to kind of give you guys an
I
opportunity
was
to
going to
see what it's
say,
like.
I hope you didn't waste that one on us.
No, that was
'Cause,
one of my
that was a
favorites.
Yeah, that was
really
a
good
good
one.
Yeah, and so sometimes you got to give a clue that really gets them
Yep, that was perfect.
way far away, but it does.
I feel like
It does
I need to
work.
put in the soundboard some funny like like sounds.
Now you know what this.
Tyler
Now you
gets
know
it
what this
wrong.
is like. You do have a little ruckus crowd going out there, but you want to make sure you've got some sound to go with this, Big Al, to kind of
We
carry
could just
it.
heckle them too.
Can you
Oh yeah.
Can you get like walk-up sounds for everyone? Like
I
Ooh.
probably could.
or
I could probably insert
music?
some on the
Yeah.
soundboard.
Oh, I like that. I'm making a note here. Walk up sound.
Any
might-
opportunity I would ever have to have a walkout song,
What
I'm
would it be?
taking that.
What would
I don't know.
yours? What would
It would
yours be?
depend on I've got a lot. I'd really have
I've got a lot.
Trev, this might be something we have to do in the car ride down there. We're gonna
Yeah.
come up with funny sounds.
Can you got to get them downloaded then.
I know I
Yeah,
do.
you
and
should.
then
You
insert
should
'em
pick
on
the
there.
songs for everyone.
Oh, I
Yeah.
love this idea. This is walk up song.
Like George
Don't-
Lyle could be.
songs.
Should have been a cowboy.
Yep.
Don't tell anybody what they are.
Yeah.
when
Well,
they
if
come
he
out.
listens to this, though,
Well, we won't tell him what it is.
he probably will
He probably
because
will.
he's going to be
We
driving
can
all the way
pick
to
other.
Kansas
We
City.
can pick other ones.
Okay, it'll be a different one. It's not going to be, he should have been a cowboy, George, just so you know.
Or will it?
Or maybe. Yes. Okay. Yes. You just.
Yeah.
All right. So we are in the roost here. If you watched Ben lip that to me, that could be what plays there. But
I made sure the camera wasn't showing it so that George
Oh,
couldn't see it.
nice.
okay. But
He's
George
on it.
doesn't know how to YouTube yet.
Yeah.
Oh,
He lives on the prairie, and so it's safe. We can.
If it's not windy this
Yeah.
week, he doesn't have any power, so the windmills aren't spinning.
There we go. Oh man! And George, we did rip on stage because he was supposed to come to the banquet, and he didn't. And I held true to my word. Scott Franzen did not win a gun at the banquet on Saturday night, so I'm happy about that. We were able to give them to other kids. I think my biggest takeaway from the banquet, that was my first MC one for this season, but I just love the kids, the amount of kids. It was like, I don't know how many kids came up. I would say,
That's cool.
I was going to say like, 30, 35.
Yeah.
And then one of them won a gun. One of them won a lifetime hunting, was it the hunting and fishing license, combo license. And there was a bow and arrow, which pretty cool. The OnX has like a
Hang tag.
hang tag with it too. You guys pretty much are everywhere, Ben.
Trying to.
Yeah.
It's the goal.
You're doing great. So let's get into Pheasant Fest, and then we're going to dive into spring training. So what do you guys have coming up at Pheasant Fest?
It's going to be a good one. This should be a fun one down in Kansas City. So kick things off. I think the tickets are now sold out. But Muscadine Bloodline is playing on Thursday night.
Yeah. Did you twist Gary's arm into doing this one, or how did that come about?
So yeah, I was like, Gary, this is like, you got to do this one. It's pretty cool. And so it wasn't going to work out, and then it did work out. So I'm glad it
That's going to be a
happened.
good one.
Yeah.
That's going to be
So
a
I
good
just saw him at First Ave.
Yeah, they were just in town here last weekend.
Yeah, on Saturday.
Friday. Yeah, because we had to leave our fishing trip early so you could go to the concert, Ben.
I know. But I'm glad I left you early because it was a really fun concert. They put on a really good show. So that's the Concert for Conservation that we support on Thursday night. Friday, the show opens at noon. And so we've got 3 booths there this year. We've got our main booth. I think it's like 1418 or 1420. Gonna have a lot of fun stuff there. Giving away hats. We've got
that one. That's a pretty sweet.
No, this is like I picked the sticker off this one today. This was like the OG, one of the first OnX hats made. So this is a hot commodity apparently.
Who do I got to talk to get one of them sweet lids? Look at that camera over there. Look at that thing. Show that hat off. Dang. You see that? That's good. Mm-hmm. That is nice. I like the tan.
Nice and lit up too. It looks good.
Yeah.
So yeah,
different than this one. I do like this one too. This is one of my go-tos as well.
So
I like that one.
You like it?
These are going to be they're going to be Pheasant Fest exclusive hats. So
okay.
And this year is all about the quail, 20th anniversary of Quail Forever. So we're going full on quail this year. So anyways, we've got our Scout with the Experts area, which Travis is going to grace with his presence for a bit. We've got a bunch of other people that'll help you if you want to figure out you want to go take a trip and go hunt quail in Arizona. Mr. Tyler Webster, Tyler Sladen's going to be there. You want to go hunt in the mountains, we'll have Callie Parmalee. We'll have I think about a dozen different people, and no matter what you want to do, I bet one of those people have probably done it. So that'll be fun. And then we've got Lane Sladen too, who's going to be doing a giant painting.
Yeah, I'm really pumped
piece
about
of
this.
Art. I think it looks like it might be airbrushed was my hope. Yeah. So I think she was practicing on it. So
you've seen kind of a preview of what this might look like?
I don't know if it's
because this is going to be a 1 of 1.
Yeah. Yep. And so she'll be actually painting it. There's a 10x10 booth. She'll be painting.
Oh, she's going to paint it there?
There. Yeah.
That's neat. Yeah. She's a great artist. She's done 2 of my tattoos, and Kyle has one from her too. And
can you show it?
Well, actually, she's done 3 because she came to our wedding and did our. Yes, it's
under.
Maybe later. I get my whole arm out, but I have my Yak Terrier on the back of my arm, and then I have a flicker. I just told her I need this spot filled, and she had a northern flicker already drawn up, and so she filled it in there. But it's
sweet,
very cool.
Supposedly, Travis told me I have to get a big that pheasant tail that the one guy had.
Oh, Howard,
you and Scott said I had to get.
No,
that,
we had
that Howard
landowner from North Dakota, Kurt Swenson. Oh, by the way, he did send a message. So last week, just to interrupt you here, rudely, last week I offered that if people have banquets coming up, that they want us to help get the word out, because I mentioned that you and I were going to be doing ours. He sent an email saying that his chapter, Kurt Swenson, took us up on the offer to promote this. So his chapter in North Dakota, the Knife River chapter, is holding their banquet on Saturday, April 26th at the Beulah Civic Center. Obviously, everyone that wants to come are welcome to help their chapter raise some money for conservation. So April 26th, the Knife River chapter. It's a Saturday night. I believe the doors open at 4:00 for that one. And to find out how to register for these, I think if you go to Pheasants Forever's website, he sent me a link, but I can't explain that link right now.
www.eventbrite.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
if you Google the chapter, the year, it'll pop up. Buy tickets online.
Back to the painting.
Yeah, so anyway, Lane will have her own 10x10. She'll be painting it on Friday and Saturday, or airbrushing, whatever medium she chooses. All I said is make a really big upland picture, and I want it quail. And so I'm really excited to see what it comes out as.
Yeah. And that's going to auction at the Saturday night banquet. Silent auction, live auction?
Live auction. It'll be a live auction item on the docket. So that'll be pretty cool. I'm excited to see that. And I know it'll turn out well. So that'll be going on during the show. We've got a number of different seminars going on. If you stop at our booth, we've got a whole seminar schedule going on. I think we've got 101s going on every day. If you want to learn more about the app, different panels about quail, essentials for the traveling bird hunter, e-scouting public land quail, and those are all happening Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So you can also go on our website. I can send the link. I think it's onxmaps.com/hunt/Pheasant Fest. And you can see all the schedule. You can see everything that's happening there. So
did we already talk Friday night though?
we haven't.
Okay.
We haven't got there yet. So
all
Friday night is if you've been there, it's generally a pretty fun time. It's our after party. In years past, it's been 40X was the first one. Last year was offline. This year is going to be Reign of the Quail.
Reign of the Quail.
So I said this year is all about giving some love to quail who are, I don't want to get into it, but I like quail.
I love quail. Yep.
Nothing against pheasants, but I hate them.
Hannah, what's your go-to bird?
Well, I don't hunt myself, but grouse and woodcock is.
Yeah.
I have a special. This is why it's disappointing I didn't get that trivia question because I love.
I know that's why I was staring at you because I'm like, this is right up your alley.
I know woodcock are pretty great, but I haven't eaten a lot of game birds in my life yet. But bobwhite quail are pretty delicious.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness,
I was pretty disappointed that Kyle went to a new place this year and didn't come home with a ton, but. He usually goes to
error, or he just chose a bad area?
Just new to the area. So, and it was really windy, and he did. I think it was ended up being more of like a scouting trip for him, just to try a new spot. But he normally goes to Kansas and comes home with some birds and.
Didn't bring home the goods this year.
No,
Mama's not happy.
None for me, but
Dang it.
Next year.
And that's why Kyle never gets to come in.
No, he's not invited.
He's not invited. He was uninvited.
until Hannah gets her quail.
Yeah. Let that be a lesson, Kyle. So seminars, the Friday night party, the Reign of the Quail.
Yep, 9:00 Friday. It's at the convention center. So if you're at the Upland Rally or the Bob White Ball, I think you come right downstairs. It's 1501. There'll be signs. It'll be free beer from Line and Kugels, as well as live music. It's a local band, Big Time Grain Co. So we'll be.
Or if you're at the trivia that we're hosting, we end it in time so you can go to the after party after.
Over.
Yep, exactly. So that's where I always end up going Friday after the show, and we cut up a rug. You'll see the cowboy out there. He'll be dancing the night.
Am I allowed to come?
100%.
Nice.
Yeah, it is open to all Pheasant Fest and Quail Classic attendees. Free entry.
And what else? Tell them what else they win, Ben.
Oh, if you come, you get to leave with a bag of Gundog Grind Reign of the Quail blend.
Coffee.
A bag of coffee.
Those guys and their coffee, they're killing it. I love it.
Yeah.
It's fun to see. Anything else that you're excited about as far as the show? I feel like for me, and maybe this is the same for you, once we're there, the show goes so fast and there's quite a few obligations and places we need to be. And I don't get to sit down and listen to some of the seminars that I want to, which is why I've invited Hannah in today.
You get a personal seminar.
I get a personal seminar here today. But I'm just really intrigued by the lineup of dog trainers that they have. I probably could sit at the stage all day, every day during the show and just soak it all in. And that's how I feel anytime I have somebody with the knowledge like Hannah has here that we're going to dig into. I'm fascinated by it. Hannah, when we were talking before we turned the mic on, that you said people were excited that you're going to be here today talking with us because they just wanted to hear you talk.
Yeah, which is nuts because my whole life I always talk too much in school and talk too much in various jobs. And now all of a sudden I have a job where all people want to do is listen to me talk, which works really great.
That blow your mind?
I could talk to a wall. I talk to myself constantly. So, yeah.
Me too, don't worry.
All right. So let's talk spring training, right? Is there anything else we want to mention about Pheasant Fest beforehand?
Oh, we've got a cool announcement coming down the pike on Friday.
Okay.
Partnership with Pheasants
wrote that
Forever.
down. Can we tease that now? Can you hint at what that's going to be?
It's going to be so Pheasants and Quail Forever launching a pretty monumental program for voluntary public access that we will be supporting.
Okay.
So stay tuned.
No, I'm not going to say anything.
Don't.
I won't say anything. All right.
I will get mad at you.
Okay. I'm not going to say anything else, but there's a big announcement coming that if you follow this podcast, you're ingrained in this world. So you will be hearing about it before the weekend is through. Okay, let's talk bird dogs, Hannah. You ready?
Yeah.
Ben, I want you to ask questions too because we're just going to
Pepper.
We're going to pepper her.
Great.
So
Roll up my
Mud Lake,
sleeves.
yeah, Mud Lake Kennels, and you two are friends.
Yeah.
You two spend a lot of time in the woods together.
Yeah.
Your handle is In the Woods with Dogs.
Yep.
Also at Mud Lake Kennels.
Yep.
Also MN Gun Dog.
That's Grouse Dog. So
Grouse
MN
Dog.
Grouse Dog.
Yep.
So that's our field trial club, Minnesota Grouse Dog Association. I run their social media.
Okay.
So yep, I have that one. And then you can also find Kyle is all one word Mud Lake Bird Dogs, which really throws people for a loop.
Oh my
I get so
goodness.
many messages to Mud Lake Kennels that are like, "Hey Kyle," and I'm like, "No, this is his wife," which is who you should be asking, anyways.
Yes.
But
So when I talked to Ben about this, he's like, "No offense to Kyle, but you really want to talk to Hannah."
Kyle has been asked to do podcasts, and it's work to try to get his head wrapped around talking. I'm the talker.
You are the talker.
I'm definitely the talker. He has tons of knowledge, and if you can get him talking, it's definitely worthwhile. But he definitely has like imposter syndrome when it comes to like getting on in a public forum and saying things.
So is he one of those guys where he doesn't say much, but what he says, you want to make sure to like.
Yep.
I'm thinking Sonny Picars, he talks quite a bit, but Jordan
Yeah.
doesn't. You know,
Yeah.
and so if Jordan says something, you want to write it down.
Yeah. He's
Yeah.
he's funny. He's witty. He has a lot of knowledge. But yeah, he usually just kind of sits back and, I mean, if you met him at a field trial, he's super chatty and super friendly. I wouldn't say he's shy at all or reserved, but he's reserved when it comes to sharing knowledge just because he would rather listen and
I respect that.
Yeah, I do too. I like envy it because I don't have it. And sometimes
So you
I'm
have the
like,
gift to gab?
yeah, and sometimes I'm like, shut up. Like,
You or him?
No, me.
Oh.
I'm like, can you chime in? And so I stop talking. Can you just like, all right. But
You know how much we all love quail. And let's be honest, pheasants have been stealing the spotlight for way too long. It's time for a quail rebellion. Quail Forever is turning 20, and OnX Hunt is throwing a party to remind everyone who really runs the uplands. It's called Reign of the Quail, and it's going down Friday, March 7th at 9 p.m. at the Kansas City Convention Center, Hall 1501, during Pheasant Fest and Quail Classic. This isn't just an ordinary party. It's a full-on celebration of habitat conservation and the upland hunting lifestyle. We're talking about live music from Big Time Grain Company, free beer from Line and Kugels, and yes, everyone walks away with something. We're not saying you'll leave a millionaire, but you'll definitely leave a winner. And here's the best part. It's open to all Pheasant Fest and Quail Classic attendees. No tickets, no hassle. Just show up, grab a cold one, and join the party. So after a full day of talking bird dogs, habitat, and hunting gear, come blow off some steam and celebrate 20 years of Quail Forever with OnX Hunt. I'll see you there at Reign of the Quail at Pheasant Fest and Quail Classic. If you're one of the lucky hunters that harvested your own tasty wild game this hunting season, then I want to personally congratulate you on your success. Well done. And if you want to make the most of all that hard-earned meat, then I recommend you head over to waltons.com. They have everything but the meat. That's their motto. They have all the tools to help you process and prepare your meat, like grinders, mixers, stuffers, slicers, smokers, grills, and seasonings. They have thousands of items in stock and ready to ship the same day. They've also recently launched their own dry curing cabinet and a whole line of chambered vacuum sealers, from large commercial-grade sealers to smaller handheld models. And let me tell you, they are awesome. This year, John Tremblay and his team at Waltons are really focused on adding new content to their Meatgistics library to help all of us hunters make the most of our meat. All of that can be found at waltons.com, and you can listen to their own weekly Meatgistics podcast too. I'm happy to call the hardworking team at Waltons my friends, and I believe they will treat you like one if you choose to trust them with your own meat processing needs. Find everything they have to offer at waltons.com. Marshwear Clothing is one of the hottest clothing brands in the outdoors today. Marshwear designs clothing for the pursuit of good times in the outdoors. Their lineup is versatile, from field to hunt camp to a night out on the town. They have field staples like the Wheeler jacket and long haul pants, and everyday classics like the Sullivan Tech hoodie. Marshwear clothes are designed to keep you looking and feeling your best while you're in the uplands and on everyday adventures. They also have some of the coolest camo patterns on the market today, conceived from an amalgamation of vintage camo patterns from previous generations. Their mallard camo harkens back to the classics of old camouflage, but with a modern day twist. I'm a big fan of their style, fit, and quality. All Marshwear clothes are field tested and approved for the pursuit of good times in the outdoors. Check them out at marshwearclothing.com. Okay, so Mud Lake Kennels, central Minnesota, or maybe, I would say central. It's pretty much.
East Central, yeah.
Yep.
Harris.
How long have you been running that?
Probably only like a year, actually, but I've been training dogs for about 10 years.
Okay. How'd you get into it?
So with just training in general, I was in my 20s and working in an animal hospital, and I knew I loved dogs. I got my first dog, and I very naively was like, oh, I'm really good at this. And my first dog is like the easiest dog in the world. And I was like, oh, I'm so good at this. I should definitely do this as a job. And so I looked up how to become a dog trainer, and they're like, you don't have to do anything. And I was like, done. I'm a dog trainer now. And I remember going
certified and everything.
Yep. I remember going to work the next day and at an animal hospital with veterinarians who have to do tons of very expensive schooling. And I was like, I'm a dog trainer now. And they were like, that's not how that works. And I was like, yeah, it is. So I started just with volunteering. I just posted in a local rescue group, and I was like, if you got a foster dog, I'll train it. And of course, everybody took me up on that.
Really?
Yeah. And so I got a lot of experience with that. And then I really just ended up not enjoying working for other people and decided to jump ship at my full-time job and started walking dogs to supplement my dog training, just to have like a Monday through Friday gig, and got my hands on a lot of dogs.
Can you make a living walking dogs?
Oh my God, yeah. Especially if you live in the cities. I was feeling if I didn't have the life I live now, and I still lived in the cities, and I just wanted like a easy job where I'm just outside all day, I'd walk dogs in a heartbeat.
You raised your hand there, Ben. You walk dogs?
No.
There's an app like Uber or like Lyft. It's basically the same thing, but you can like go on there and hire somebody to like walk your dog. Like
it's called like a Rover or something.
Rover and Wag, but like
Wag is what I've
because
heard of.
because I'm a dog trainer and I have behavioral knowledge, I can take dogs that other dog walkers don't have enough experience to take. Like dogs that want to eat me when I walk in the front door, or dogs that want to eat other dogs and people when we're out on a walk. And I'd be so much better at it now too, because I'm actually much better with dogs.
Well, okay, so I'm going to jump in right now.
Yeah.
Dogs that want to eat me. So this is a thing when I go up to a random farm in North Dakota and I'm trying to ask permission. You're not sure if that dog you're not sure you're coming back to the vehicle.
Yeah. I don't get out.
But it's worth it if you do get permission. So that's kind of what do you do when you see a dog that you think might want to kill you?
So my general rule of thumb with an aggressive dog is dogs are definitely, if they wanted to, they would kind of being. You know, they say that about boyfriends and husbands. If they wanted to, they would. Dogs totally are. There's no variables there. They are faster than you. They're stronger than you. They can hurt you. If they wanted to, they would. So if they're pulling out all the stops and putting on a big display, they generally are hoping that you don't make a move to put them in a situation where they are going to have to bite you.
Okay.
So I do my very best to just like stand still, be really.
You put your hands down, let them come smell?
I usually when I walked in the door, and like obviously those two dogs that greeted me are friendly, but I generally act like dogs don't exist, and they tend to like that more. So if a dog's acting aggressively towards me, I just do my best to look as non-threatening without looking weak. So you just kind of stand like you don't care. Like, I'm not trying to fight you, man. I'm not like.
Can they sense it? You know, a horse can.
It's not like a vibe. It's not like you have like this aura or this energy. It's literally your body language. So if you can, and I've had dogs like coming up the leash at me, and I have to like, hey, we're cool, man, and I'm like trying to hold them back, and I'm like shaking on the inside, like, God, I don't want to get bit. But if I can project to that dog, like we are not in conflict, that goes a really long ways. But I've been in situations most of the time if I'm like looking for one of my dogs that ran off, where I've pulled into a driveway and had some big dogs come at me, I stay in my vehicle and let their barking let the people know that I'm there. And
that makes sense. I think one thing that's interesting about dogs is they take ownership of this is my turf.
Yeah.
When you drive up their driveway, you're entering into their turf. And now there is some dog personalities, breeds, whatever it might be. They're trained to protect. This is, mine. If you take that dog and put it into a different scenario,
I call it new kid syndrome.
They're on level playing field. They don't have to fight for that particular turf. You're not entering mine, so I'm entering yours. That's how they feel. Because like Game Fair, for instance, there's dogs invited. Pheasant Fest, there will be dogs there on the floor, and they're all on neutral turf.
Yep.
So it eliminates a lot of dog fighting.
Yeah, and you do see some dogs that are just like, even in that setting, they're still more aggressive. But my MO is I'll just fight fire with fire. You show me aggression and intensity,
You bark back.
I'm gonna 10x it. I'm gonna run up to you and
you run at them.
No, I don't. That'd be really dumb.
That would be really dumb. You're worried we might fight? Let me tell you, we are gonna fight.
Yeah, I'm a bigger bear. Yeah, I'm a bigger bear. I've got a bigger bite and a louder bark.
Yeah.
That's why I'm not a dog trainer.
It works with some dogs. I mean, there are definitely, once you get to, I have worked with a lot of aggressive dogs, so I can tell pretty quick, like, if they mean it or not. Mm-hmm. Even if they're trying really hard to say, I don't want to have to do this, you can tell, like, they're still going to do it if you give them a reason to. But I've worked with some dogs that are cowards.
All bark, no bite.
Yeah. Or I've just encountered them out and about, and those are the dogs that you just walk straight at, and they're like, oh, okay, I didn't think you were going to do something.
How about the little, the ones that fit in a purse that can...
Those are the ones that'll bite you.
That, yeah, exactly.
Those are the ones that work like a football, though.
Yeah. You can usually manhandle them
you
pretty
punt,
well.
Do you just punt them when they come?
I mean, because it is like... I've gotten pretty good with the grab, but...
Eagle claw.
You just pick them up and they're...
Okay.
For the record, I don't kick small dogs.
No, I don't either, but I feel like... Well, actually, this isn't true. I have
kicked a dog.
I have kicked a dog.
I just need to put a disclaimer on this episode. This is all hypothetical.
We don't condone kicking dogs unless you have to.
Obviously, so the dog was aggressive and it attacked Daisy as I'm standing there with a group of other people ready to go to a hunt. The dog attacks. They're in a fight. I pick her up, to pull her out of the fight that she's the attack.
You picked up Daisy?
I did. I picked up Daisy, and the dog then jumped up and latched onto my arm because that was, I guess, what it could grab, because that dog wanted to continue the fight. And so then I had to knee. I don't know. Like in the moment, you turn.
Yeah.
And so it was like to get the dog off of me.
There are circumstances where feet get involved.
Yeah, exactly. I don't. Otherwise,
we don't lead with that.
We don't lead with that.
Of the moment.
That's self-defense.
But I do want to talk a little bit about the aggression, because you work with all these dogs, right?
Yeah.
And that is a real thing. So how do you overcome some of that? And I've seen a little bit of this.
Yeah.
Ben, when we were at the method training seminar, one of our mutual friends, he brought a dog that had a lot of anxiety, a lot of nerves, very much loud barking. And I don't know if aggression is the right word, but the anxiety.
Yeah, you could tell that dog just was not very self-confident at all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so and they did get that dog to a point within about an hour and a half, 2 hours, where everyone, their jaws were just on the ground. And at that moment, we all knew anything else that they said from here out, I want to know everything.
Yeah.
Because if you can take a 6-year-old dog that has suffered from lack of confidence, anxiety, all of these things, and in an hour and a half build that confidence in that dog.
Yeah.
Right there. Now he's at heel, attentive, looking, listening, overcoming obstacles.
Yep.
So cool to watch. I mean, I have goosebumps just thinking back to that.
Yeah.
It's so cool. So how do you get there with a dog that...
Yeah. I mean, every dog's different for sure. So it really depends. When it comes to aggression, if you're really worried about your dog causing harm, or even if they're sometimes it gets lumped in with aggression, but it's not always. To me, aggression is the intent to cause harm. I really believe that this dog, given the opportunity, is going to hurt somebody or another dog or whatever. But some dogs are reactive, where they're just loudmouths. They're a lack of confidence. They get frustrated. They get any big emotion and they don't know how to handle it, and they just mouth off. And it can look like aggression. It happens in the cities a lot because a lot of people are walking around with dogs on leashes, and they see another dog and they just get going. And that same dog off leash might not act like that at all. But anything like that, it's specifically aggression for sure. tends to be the temperament of the dog, and you never really get rid of it. You just kind of figure out how to create a partnership and a language with that dog that you can lead that dog around. Huh. And so I don't really preach this kind of like, I'm the alpha and I'm in charge kind of vibe, but you do have to take a leadership role with your dog because you are a human and you just know more. And I think it's very important to do everything you can to get to know your dog and respect who they are and what they show you. So if you have a dog that's likely to be aggressive, the best thing you can do is face that and say, this could happen, versus saying like, oh no, he's just a little nervous or something. He doesn't really mean it, and make excuses. And so when you accept that and respect that, and then you just learn how to communicate and really, it's just obedience. You need to have obedience to be able to communicate with your dog. You need to be able to say, I need you to sit right now because this dog is going to walk past you and you are not allowed to bite that dog or bark at that dog or whatever. Obedience is just communication. And if you can get that with an aggressive dog, they can still go places and do things. I have 2 German Shepherds that, given the opportunity, if they feel like they need to scruff with a dog, they're going to go.
They're going to protect you, right?
No.
They just want to throw down.
They just like to fight, especially my female. She gets like a little twinkle in her eye when she thinks she might get to scrap. But because I know that.
Is it playful? Or is it?
No. She's probably not going to send a dog to the vet. It's not like she wants to kill dogs. It's not like she sees them and is like, I hate them. But she's very cocky. And if she were like, if a dog, especially an underconfident dog, got in her face and was poking at her and messing with her, she's just gonna be like,
doesn't tolerate it.
Yeah, she's like, you want to fight? All right, and then boom. So, but I know that about her, and I know that that's what she's gonna do, and I don't hide it. I don't try to say like, oh no, she's really a sweetheart and loves all dogs. Yeah. So when we go places, I have just put a ton of obedience on her, and she just understands that you have to listen to me, and it's definitely like, you have to listen to me. I'm going to put my foot down, and there's consequences if you don't, because the consequences of you not listening are really high to the outside world.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
And to me.
Yeah. So I think in just taking that, and I can explain it in a different sense where, Ben and I, we were out at our buddy George Lyle's and we were training, and we were talking about, okay, this is what Daisy has been doing, right? She's been blowing up birds when she was a puppy. She's just running through them, blowing them up. She's supposed to stand there, right? Mm-hmm. She's a pointer, and she wasn't. And so George is like, you know what she's gonna do. Don't pretend like she might just suddenly stop. So go into it knowing this, and then have a plan. Don't get mad when what we knew this was going to happen. Don't get mad.
Have a hard time seeing that, though. I think like if you have the ability to be proactive and like you let a dog show you who they are 2 or 3 times, and then you believe them, then you can start setting it up from there. Even if there's some trial and error in that setup, like that's all you really need to be a good dog trainer. Is you just need to be proactive. If so many owners were just on top of it like that. And
well, that's why understanding a dog's mind is such a powerful tool.
Yeah.
And that's something that I've sort of learned and continue to want to learn more about. We talk about Sonny Picars and Jordan Wells and George Lyle when they do these seminars, the method seminars. Mm-hmm. It's really helping the dog owner understand their dog and what's happening up top in their brains.
For dog trainers, the dog's pretty easy. I think especially, I haven't done a lot of complex stuff with bird dogs yet, but like it's all pretty much the same. It just, you copy and paste it into different places. Once you know how to train a dog, you can kind of get them to do whatever you want with a little bit of fine tuning, but you have to be able to teach people how to do it.
Okay, so you started out, you're walking dogs, and then you're a dog trainer because you say so, right? Yep. And how has it evolved over the last 10 years from maybe aggressive dogs now to training bird dogs?
Yeah, so I got really burnt out with aggressive dogs.
I can see why.
Hard.
It's like working in a group home or something. And God bless
and it's not even
people.
It's not the dogs that are hard. It's really hard to support owners that have dogs with big behavioral stuff. And that became my niche for a while. Like probably in the last 5 years, I really found a niche in working with owners that needed more hand holding, and not in like a condescending way, but in just people who needed like they had emotions attached to their dog's behavior that needed to be sorted out. And they needed somebody to be really realistic with them and be like, it's okay.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay that your dog does this. Like, no one's, it's not a reflection of you as a person, whatever. So I got really good at, and I'm also neurodivergent myself. I have ADHD pretty good. And I worked with a lot of people that are also in that boat and needed, like, can you make dog training more digestible for me? Like, I have all this pressure I have to do all this work. I have to do all of these things. And I was like, what if you just did this one little thing? Like, you know, you have a dog that barks at people when they walk in the door and they're like, I got to train this. I'm like, what if you just put him in another room and brought him out on a leash? Like, that changes the whole picture for the dog. Like, you're talking about territory and all that. You take that visual out and bring them in when they're calmed down and your guest is seated and settled in. It's a lot easier to handle that problem. And they're like, whoa. So a lot of people just need like hacks like that. So I got really good at that, but it also came with a lot of pressure because then I became the go-to for all of these people.
Were they calling you all the time then for everything?
No, I was really good at picking clients, and I didn't give my phone number out until I trusted people. I was really good with my clients, and I created a lot of friendships with my clients too. But it either got to the point where they got it and they were so good that they didn't need a dog trainer anymore, which is a great goal, but then I don't have any work. Or it just got to the point where I was like, this isn't the right fit for you. This is just a really challenging dog. And then we have to have some hard conversations and stuff like that. And then I had some people that just didn't, you know, you still get them. Even when you work really hard to screen your clients, you still get people that, like, no matter what you tell them,
no matter how many times Ben calls.
Right. I'm not the person that's explaining this well. Yeah. Whatever's coming out of my mouth isn't landing on you, so I'm not the one for you. You got to maybe just find a different trainer. So I got really burnt out with that. And at the same time, I had gotten my dog Maven, who's now 2, and was really getting more interested in that. And I kind of live my life by the, like, if you build it, they'll come kind of mentality. Like, I'm just going to do this, just like when I became a dog trainer. I'm just going to do this and it's just going to work. And I'll just do whatever it takes.
You live with confidence.
Yeah.
You have a lot of confidence.
And I know people and I have connections. And so if I want to do something, I can generally make it happen. Bird dog training, though, it was been a little bit harder for me to branch into, and then time-wise of me getting pregnant and having twins put a wrench in that. But I just decided I really like doing that. And I was like, I'm just going to put it out there that I want to do more of this. And priced myself pretty reasonably. It was pretty realistic with people when they'd call. And I said, give me puppies. Because a lot of pros don't take puppies right out of the gates. They wait till they're a little bit older and they can actually handle more training. And the one thing that I really had was time and access to wild birds. And so I was like, bring me your puppies and I will spend all week just sticking their face right in woodcock. And I'll charge you a very small amount. Like, basically, I just charge me to take care of your dog. And I just, like, this is a win-win for both of us. Like, I just want to be in the woods with puppies. Let's do it. And so I had that would have been summer of 2023, summer and fall of 2023. I had quite a few puppies come through, and that was just a blast. It didn't even feel like work at that point. It was just fun.
We're kind of getting into puppy season here.
Yeah.
Spring, there's a lot of...
I know, I'm itching.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't need another one. Ben, do you want another one?
I'm not allowed.
I know, Sarah, I posted a meme on my story, and your wife was like, yeah, that's Ben's mentality too.
Not another one.
Yeah, we're married to the right people for us.
Yeah, because I could go.
Well, okay, so you do Maven is an English setter.
Yep.
And I feel like last year, maybe I'm wrong in saying this, but I felt like last year was the year of the setter.
Yeah.
They were everywhere. Setter litters were coming out all over the place.
Is that just because you have setters
that's
in the
what I'm
like
wondering,
you want?
because that's where
it's
my
like
brain
when you
is.
start searching for cars and you're like, oh, I really want this type of Jeep, and all of a sudden they're everywhere, and you're
The
like, whoa.
algorithm knows what's
Yeah.
going on in my mind, so everything I see is setter, 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 setter,
Yeah.
setter, setter.
I mean, mine too, but
oh,
I
that's
think
what happens when you Google English setter. Setters come up.
Just like when I get off of work and Travis is all over my Instagram feed and Facebook feed.
Right.
yeah,
That
can't get away.
I'm telling
from
you,
this
buy the
guy.
vest and the ad goes away. Buy the vest, just do it. So, is there something that you particularly like in a setter? I know what I like. Ben
It's
has
funny.
one.
Yeah,
all three of
I
us
didn't
have
even
one here.
like him at first. So I got into setters. Well, I actually grew up with setters. My mom got a reject Llewellyn. Like, I was in junior high, maybe even younger. gun shy. It was a whole deal. The dog wasn't working for them, so they were giving him away. So we got him, and he was a handful. Derby. She didn't even know that Derby was a setter term. She just named him that because he was from Kentucky.
Yeah.
And so when I was like, Mom, Derby's a setter thing, she's like, oh my God. So she loved that dog, wanted another one, knew that field line's not for her, so she got a bench bred. Then my grandpa ended up with that bench bred sire when he retired. So I grew up around bench bred setters, and they are, and she has one right now too, dumber than a box of rocks. I mean, perfect pet dogs. They're just nice, easy, but they're dumb. And so when
those are great because you can mold, right?
Well, they just don't do much.
Oh,
like they just
They
there's
stand
just-
still and look pretty.
yeah.
Oh, really?
So
Okay.
I mean, there might be smarter ones out there, but ours were just goons. So when Kyle and I started dating, I was into German Shepherds and a York Terrier and like mean, gnarly, aggressive dogs doing protection
That's
sports.
your style,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
And I was like, I like dogs that have to manhandle. And he told me he wanted an English setter, and I was like, what's wrong with you? Why do you?
And you question
And
everything
then-
about your
Yeah.
relationship at
Then
that time.
there's easy.
And like we were brand new into dating, and we moved in right away because of COVID, and it worked out because now we're married with 2 kids. But so he wanted a setter. I came in a relationship with like 7 dogs, so I couldn't say anything. And so he wanted a setter. And I think the story about Easy is just fate. Like that has to be told. So Easy's from AJ Kalupa High Point Setters. He's out of Big Lake. It's the same place where Freddie's from. Freddie's like a half brother nephew to
Freddie
Easy.
is Ben's dog.
Yep.
Yep.
So Easy's from Jetwood, which is Freddie's grandpa and Freddie's mom's guy. So they tried to do a 2.0 of Easy's litter, and Jetwood wasn't doing it. So they went to Ponderosa Mac and got Freddie's litter. So Kyle is part owner of his grandpa's water and sewer company, Gene's Water and Sewer in Minneapolis. And he gets his heavy machinery from a company called Titan Machinery. So he goes to have a meeting with his rep there. And in the parking lot, there's a truck. And on the back of the window, there's a decal that says High Point Setters with a setter on it. He sends me a picture and says, I would rather be talking to this guy. We move on. Life goes on. Months later, we're sitting around at home on our phones, and there's a ad for a litter that AJ posts. Kyle pulls up the pedigree, and he knows so much about pedigrees. And he looks at the pedigree and he's like, oh, this is really nice. This guy's only in Big Lake. This is pretty cool. Clicks on AJ's profile, and his cover photo at the time is the picture of the back of his truck with High Point Setters with a setter on it. And he's like, oh my God, this is that guy.
That's the guy.
AJ's a sales rep at Titan Machinery, just not Kyle's rep. So he messages him, and Kyle takes like 8 years to make decisions on stuff like this. And so he's like, oh, they probably are all sold. They're probably not available. And I'm like, just message the guy. At the very least, we make a connection. Messages him, sure enough, all the puppies are available. It was like he was one of the first guys to reach out, I think. And so we create a friendship with AJ, and we end up getting exactly the puppy that we hope for. And that's Easy, and it works out great. And so, but when Easy was a puppy, I took care of like his day-to-day stuff, but I wasn't really interested in the training, and I just kind of thought he was dumb. Like he was sweet and he was cute and he was soft, and but I wasn't like really into it.
Is that because you just want some like ridiculous challenge or something? You have to
Yeah,
overcome
I don't know why.
without, you know?
Now I'm smarter.
Yeah.
Now I realize
Now you
that.
see that there's so much there that you get to
Well,
pour into to
Yeah.
kind of mold this
well, what
creature.
I realized with setters, and specifically Easy, is that he is very intelligent. He just doesn't need to fight you on it. So you tell it to him 1 or 2 times, and he's like, great.
All right, cool.
I'm
What's next?
happy to do that. There's nothing about me that needs to challenge you on that. Where like my terriers and my shepherds, they want to know like every angle. Like, well, what if I do it this way? Is it still the same thing? Is that still wrong? What if I'm in a down but my elbows aren't touching the ground? Like, is that still a
It's like
down?
telling a kid to sit in one spot, and all of a sudden they got their foot over
Like,
here.
I
It's
have
like, oh,
one
is this
butt
okay?
cheek up. Yeah.
What is she gonna do now?
And so I realized with Easy that he just doesn't care enough.
Well, I think some of that's in Daisy right here, where she would always just push it a little further.
That
Yeah.
was
Well, I'm
certainly
here,
Daisy.
but I'm just. What if I go just a
She's
little
got some
bit?
German dog in her, doesn't she?
yeah.
That's why.
Yep, she's a mix. Yep, exactly. So she just wants to see how much she can get away with. All right, cool. I'll come back. And then
Yeah.
a little bit later, she's like, but what if I?
And Easy
if I
still
just
has
take
some
one
of
more
that. That's
step?
still like a dog thing. Like you call Easy and he'll stand like 50 yards away from you and be like, what if I don't?
Yeah.
And you're like, get in here. And it's for like getting in the truck to leave or to go in this kennel. You know, if it's time to go, he's going. But so I fell in love with, well, really what it was is we started going to trials. I love being outside. I like meeting dog people. I like listening to dog people talk about dogs. And I started walking enough braces and I was like, I could do this. I could totally do this. I was like, give me a dog. I want to do this. And so we waited for a while.
You're going to compete now.
Yeah. And I'm like, I'd watch people do things and I'd hear people have ideas and I just formulated my own ideas. And
Did you see Ben in the woods there? Was he competing?
Yeah.
Or did he inspire
just
you?
yelling at dogs pretty much.
Yeah.
Well, because
Easy and
was
Amos are about the same age. So they were kind of in the same game.
They'd run in the same heats?
Yep. And so, yeah.
Easy would win. Amos would get second or third. Yeah.
Really?
Well, Easy did win a lot.
Would you get mad at Hannah then?
I got mad at Kyle.
Yeah.
No, I didn't get mad at it. And thankfully,
I wasn't a part of it enough to be mad at.
Easy's old enough where he aged out and then Amos got his time in the sun.
Nice.
But they influenced each other.
So you've got a champion dog on your hands, right? Or how many champions?
So.
Well, Easy doesn't have any champions yet and championships yet, but he had a very successful Derby career.
Because how old do they have to be in order to be a champion?
Well, so they age out
really.
of, any age for a championship. So they age out of Derby roughly around 2. It depends on when they were born, but roughly around the age of 2 is when they age out of Derby. And then the stakes get higher. They are expected to perform better in the older dog stake. And once you become a shooting dog, you're there for life. There's no higher stake besides that. But the way championships work is they designate a trial as a championship. So it's not like in some AKC stuff where you have to like accumulate points to earn a championship. You like in the spring, most of our trials are just regular shooting dog stakes. And so if you win, you still place, you still have your first place ribbon and all that. But if in the fall and you run in a championship, if you take first place in that stake, you are a champion.
You get the CH in front of your name.
Yeah.
Forever.
Yeah.
Once a champion, always
and
a
then
champion.
if you do that multiple times, then that's where you get
5-time champion.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
4X, H.
Yep. And
Is
so,
there a record in this association?
Yeah, it's Ponderosa Mac for cover dogs right
like
now.
in terms of like who's got the most, or in terms of like do they keep track of it?
Well, yeah. Is there a particular dog out there right now that
it's Ponderosa Mac for cover dogs? He's like a 9
times champ?
How many runner-ups? Do you know? 5, 6?
Yeah, it's a lot.
But 9 championships in a cover dog. I mean, for how small the cover dog world kind of is, that's pretty good.
So what makes him a champion? Can you see it?
Wins championships.
I understand that, but to somebody that's never competed, what makes him the champion? What is he doing in the field, or what is she doing if it's a different dog to make that dog the champion? Well,
they really want to see. So it's an hour-long stake. So they're in the woods for an hour.
Yep.
They want to see run. Obviously, bird finding ability, but these are wild bird. I mean, they have to have a bird to be a champion. But it's not like whoever has the most birds wins, because this is a wild dog.
Yeah, it's not a bird counting contest.
Yeah.
And there could be on this course, there could be 50 birds. On this course, there could be 1 bird.
Yeah, because they're wild, so you don't know.
Yeah.
Right. And everything with how we set up the trial, it's really all luck of the draw. And that's why I think it's really hard to do multiple championships, because the conditions have to be right, and you have to be able to show, the dog has to be able to show in a number of situations that they can get the job done under a number of different judges. So it is very subjective, and that's something that people criticize, because they're like, well, certain judges just like certain things.
It isn't though. Yeah, it certainly is. But
everybody for the most part agrees with big picture, and like there is a standard.
Yeah.
But
if you see a lot of the times, like everyone in a trial would watch and it'd be like, yep, that dog.
That's the guy.
But then other trials, it's like, you kind of scratch your head and be like, well, if
why
I was
that the guy?
judging,
Yeah.
it wouldn't be me. But
so there's
definitely subjectivity, but I like that, because if you can get it done multiple times, like that's what makes like not
9 times. It's not an accident.
That's
if it's
like
happened
Mac,
9
right?
times.
It's
exactly.
Like, with I feel like with Amos or with.
So is it style?
Easy.
Is it how he ranges?
Yeah,
is
so
it his
it's
listening
all of
to
it.
a
So
command?
you want to. My interpretation of what they're looking for is they want to see a dog that has all the power to have a really strong run, that they finish as strong as they start. They don't gas out. they want to see them on the edge of bell range. You don't see these dogs very often. So you have to get really good at listening to bells.
That's why I don't do it. I can't hear.
Yeah.
I can't do it. I mean,
Travis, he's on point. Travis.
Ben and I hunt together all the time, and I go back and I watch the footage back, and I just laugh. I'm like, he was trying to get my attention this whole time, and I'm like,
yeah.
I mean, that does still
I just
happen.
don't hear him.
Yeah. But if you're judging, you definitely need to be able to hear it. I'm judging my first few stakes.
How far out there can you hear the bell?
It depends on the bell. But I mean, there are some bells like 200 yards is pretty.
I mean, I can hear in the right conditions like 4.
Yeah.
400. So I would lose Daisy at about 35, 40 yards. That's as far as I could hear her.
Okay.
Northwoods.
And so
Big
once
bell.
once I started this season, it was wearing the All Clear EXP Pro hearing, and so it enhances the sounds. I could hear her to like 135 to 150.
Does it also enhance all the other sounds though too to make it harder? Because I've heard that from some of the guys that use hearing aids they're like, it's not actually very helpful.
It is for me because I can hear, when we're talking, like when you and I were like, oh man, after our first hunt together this fall, you're like, thanks for being able to hear finally. I could hear them. The way that the sound comes in is a little bit different than some of the other ones, so it doesn't enhance the wind noise.
Yeah,
that's for me the biggest key.
Okay.
And so everything is amplified. I can hear better, which then I'm thinking, maybe I could do one of these trials because I can hear a little bit, but still.
We have a scout.
Yeah, that's the nice
Ben said he would be my scout or you'd walk with me, and if you can hear that far.
Yep, that's all you really need. Because I still sometimes get my bells confused because I'm still pretty new to it. Or like I had one where my brace mate was a friend and she had already put her bell on her dog. And so when we went to go compare bells, it was the same bell. And I was like, well, I'm not going to make you take yours off. I'll go get a different one. Well, I'm not used to listening to the other one. I'm used to listening to mine, which is what she had on. So I'm calling my dog and I'd be like, good girl. And all of a sudden it's Junebug. And I'm like, that's not my good girl.
Wrong dog.
And so it's, but luckily I had help.
We could talk trials all day probably, but I think we want to talk some training too here to get into the dog's head. And also I want to make sure that we touch on your new role at the Rough Grouse Society too, and on the board. So these trials are happening during the spring, right?
Yep.
How many? How often?
So in the spring, if the weather allows, we probably have like 5 or 6. And once they start, it's like every weekend. So there's some in Minnesota. There's more in Wisconsin. There's a few in Wisconsin. But there's probably 5 or 6 every weekend, starting like mid to late March into April.
And if there's Michigan folks out there, there's a bunch in Michigan, as well as in the Northeast New England area.
Okay. Yeah. And then same thing in the fall. We start in October and go into November, and it's the same deal that we have them. The fall ones, those are championships, and those usually go through the week.
Okay.
And that's really like pretty much straight through with very little breaks. But
yeah, if there's anyone out there that wants to come and watch them, you can go on the American Field website. If you're anywhere across the country, you can go on the American Field website and go look at the calendar.
American Field. That's the
it's
title.
UKC American Field. They've got a calendar, and you'll see it's kind of confusing because there's all the stakes, whether it's horseback, NBHA. But if you see cover dog or grouse dog, otherwise, that's one of our clubs. Otherwise, you can go to, if you're Minnesota, Minnesota Grouse Dog, Moose River, or
Chippewa Valley on Facebook. Or, I mean, you could go follow the MN Grouse Dogs on Instagram and shoot me a DM, and I can help you. So the easiest would
probably be to follow MN Grouse Dog.
If you're from Minnesota.
Yeah.
Or Wisconsin.
Yeah, but you could also just DM me. I am more than happy to share that information too.
Okay.
So, but
I'm interested in it, and I've talked to Ben, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm going to this one. I just kind of want to come and watch."
They're fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I really got into it, and you can't. I like them because even if you don't really know what you're looking at, it's still a lot of fun to watch.
Here's why I think that'd be great for a hunter that's never done it. Because Ben and I talk about this pretty regularly. You and I have been in a position with what we do here and what you do at OnX to hunt all over North America with all kinds of different dog breeds. And it gives us an opportunity to see a different dog working and what that looks like for a setter, an English pointer, or a GSP or a lab. There's so many different breeds out there that are working dogs. But I think a lot of hunters only know what they know.
Right.
You know, and that's what they've grown up with. So they keep getting the same breed. That's what their hunting buddy has.
Right.
And so then it's hard to wrap your head around, what does a different dog performing look like?
Well, and also like, where's the ceiling for this breed? Like, if you only hunt with your buddies or family or whatever, and you only see those dogs, and like the average person, if you're not me or Ben, has 1 or 2 dogs. And
how many do you have right now?
10.
10?
Got me doubled.
Wow.
Sarah, if you're listening, we're coming home with a puppy.
Yes, and I'm bringing one home too.
Yeah.
I do know of a cavapoo that's looking for a home. In case anyone's wife, a cavapoo. Anyone's wife needs a couch dog.
Okay.
So if you only ever hunt with your buddies or your family or whatever, you only see, and I don't hunt and I don't.
Which is what fascinates me, that you train these dogs,
I know,
but you
and
don't hunt.
So like I said, with being a dog trainer, if I know what I'm looking for, if I know what the objective is, you can pretty much make it happen. But like,
what about the listener who says, if she doesn't hunt, I don't care what she has to say?
That's fine.
Okay.
They don't have to listen to me.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. So, and obviously there's limitations to what knowledge I do have because of that. And I've only ever really hunted or like been along on hunts in Minnesota. So I've only ever seen certain situations play out. And that's totally valid to say she doesn't have anything to say. So.
Or the experience, maybe.
Yeah. So, I think if you only hunt, which is totally valid, you don't need to push yourself to train your dog to the fullest potential. You can have your dog be not broke at all. And if that works for you, that's fine. If you only want to break them out so far, whatever, totally fine. You can kind of do whatever you want with it and whatever works for you. But when you go to trial a dog, it has to be trained to the same standard that everybody else is training to and measure up. And so if you go to a trial, you can go and at the very least get inspiration for what's possible. And I think it's really important to at least acknowledge how important trials are. I think sometimes there's a hunting versus trialing kind of mentality, and some people are in one camp really hard and the other really hard. Or I don't know if there's very many field trialers that are anti-hunting the way that hunters can be anti-field trialing. And it definitely depends on the breed, and it definitely depends on what kind of trials you have going on. Like, I think there are some trials that are not really the best representation of breeding stock.
And I actually just wrote an article about this for Gun Dog for the summer. But yeah, like the difference between trialing and hunting. And there's certainly, just like anything, just like whether it's NAVDA or JGHV or whatever, like there's a certain element of dog games to it. Like,
yeah,
I would say cover dog trialing though is it's very
close. It's as close as I think you can possibly get to truly hunting with the dog and testing in a real world situation.
Yeah, but
without actually shooting.
Yeah, and there's some things like that are like forced constructs, like range, for example. Like we want them out to the front, out at the edge of Bell Range, where if you were looking for maybe the most effective hunting dog, like we've got Jordan Ferris has got some short hairs that probably don't run as big, but they are bird finders. Oh my gosh.
They just have that gene, the it factor.
So they're not going to outrace a setter or a pointer a lot of the times, but they will, like I think in one trial, that Chippewa one, like 11 finds in an hour or something like that. It
was ridiculous. Yeah. That was, Kyle judged that dog and was like, I don't really want to use a short hair in a cover dog trial, but I have to. He was really good.
And
so I assume there's certain breeds that excel in those different situations, right?
It's definitely dominated by setters and pointers. People have come in with short hairs and Brittany's, and they can't compete unless they're exceptional dogs and really great bird finders and just really good dogs. But it's really hard to compete at this particular game against these dogs, because these dogs are bred and raised and trained specifically for this. Like, majority of the people that we trial with.
Does that keep people from coming then? If somebody has a Brittany, they say, fine, then I'm out because I have a Brittany.
I'm sure it does happen, but we still have people come.
Yeah.
And if somebody has ever reached out to me, I've always said, like, you can certainly throw them in, especially if they're a derby. Like, if they're a puppy or a derby, throw them in.
For the fun of it, right?
Yeah. And
because it shouldn't be an intimidation.
Really.
Yeah. It is hard to enter the game in shooting dog stakes. Like, if you had a 6-year-old dog it would be really challenging to come in and try it with an adult dog. Because it is age-based, not experience-based.
I would fully expect if I came in with Daisy to get my doors blown off.
Daisy would do, actually, she would do all right.
Here's what I think.
I don't know if she would win.
But why do you say that, though?
What I think it takes to at least look like you should be there, which is all I really expect if you're coming in for the first time ever.
Right.
If I were just to show up with the dog that I already own and just try it, I would at least want to walk away and have it look like I was supposed to be there and not like my dog was like, what are we here for?
Or screw up another competitor.
Yeah.
That's my biggest thing.
Really?
To me, any dog that has wild bird experience and has hunted in the woods is going to hunt. They should hunt. If you can show up and your dog can hunt, the people are at least going to be like, yeah, all right.
And,
but
and range, I think range has a component too. Like they've got to, and Daisy gets out there, right?
Yeah.
So it's like that's
that
the other
purpose
thing.
is important.
Yep. They've got to be able to reach out, hit likely covers. So kind of what I compared it against in this article was like gun dogs are very much so reliant on their owner for direction.
Sure.
Where you take a shooting dog, it requires a lot more independence where they have to go out and they have to stay with you. They got to know where you are, but really they should be out and looking for objectives. Then you have an all-age dog, which is like one middle finger up, the other one's like, yeah, I'll stay with you, but they're supposed to be very, very independent.
Yeah.
So I think the outsider to a trial looking in says, I don't want somebody to stick their nose up at me, or like
that
I'm
won't
not
happen.
Not in our groups. I haven't been out east. I mean, like you were saying, there's a component of games. There's always going to be politics. If you get involved,
Really?
like any club or group or anything, after you could be the best of buddies.
Have a book club, and all of a sudden there's going to be
politics.
in the book club.
Right.
It's just how it works.
Yeah.
And we, like Kyle and I came into it, and I've been a part of various
You
dog
felt welcome
clubs.
right away.
We felt super welcome, but I pinpointed exactly who the pot stirrers were, like
Really?
right away.
Oh my goodness.
And I knew. So when it started, when we started getting, we were around enough to get kind of roped into some of the drama, and it's always goofy drama. Nothing's like life altering. But when we got roped into it, I was like, yeah, this is going to happen. But if you're totally new to it and you're not like used to the dog world like I am, no one's going to bring that to you. Like it's not, we all
it's
love
a very
each other.
friendly
Oh my
atmosphere.
gosh.
It's so friendly. And I would say, especially in the Minnesota and Wisconsin groups, and probably Michigan, I think Michigan has more pros just because I think they're a bigger, more established group and their grounds are a little bit more established.
Well, yours was started in 1978. I mean, that's established.
but-
These were like in the late
And, like,
1800s.
Oh,
Aren't their
wow.
trial
Yeah,
grounds private
okay.
grounds? So it's like
yeah, so somebody
they have
donated.
very little roadblocks to being able to run trials.
But
like
everybody
we do.
that I've asked about, they've all said, no, it was really friendly. Or I
Yeah,
went and I watched
think
and
most of us
and they
are
invited me in.
amateurs. Well, I'm not, but a lot of us are amateurs, and
Yeah.
I think that's why. They're people who, like Eric and Lindsay Satry, their dog Cedar is invited to the Invitational, and they got Cedar from Northwoods Bird Dogs and didn't have any plans to trial, and they just came on a whim to try, threw her in a derby, and she did great, and they loved it, and they got hooked, and now they're like,
See, I think I like the
cornerstones in our
competitive side.
club.
I like the idea of just being out there in the woods. As soon as the woodcock come up here, Ben and I are probably going to sneak
Yeah.
out and just go for a run. I just love every part of being out there working with the dog.
yeah,
And if that gives me another opportunity to do it, I know I'm going to do it. Right now, I have 4 kids.
Yeah,
it's
it's
hard to
hard.
get away on weekends and additional things. So that's probably what's kept me out the last year or two. Because I know
Yeah.
I keep in touch with Ben, like, how'd it go? How'd you
Mhm.
do? Or was it fun? Or and so like I'm interested in doing this. Any reason to get back in the woods,
yeah.
I want it.
I think
summer trial. You gotta. It's not a wild bird trial, but
No, it's fun.
Up at Fort Brooks,
Yeah.
just south of Mille Lacs.
That's
there
what
on
John
169.
Zeman too, right? He's
Yep.
up there. Yep, he's talked about that quite a bit.
That's our one planted quail trial, and it's mostly for fun to get our families. Because the hard part about coming to a cover dog trial is that there's no like one place to sit and socialize, because we're in the woods and you park here and the stake starts, you walk in and then you come out somewhere totally else. And so the trucks have to move and there's all these moving parts. So you either walk the brace and you can chat a little, but you're watching the brace. And then if you're standing on the side of the road chatting, you have to move trucks in a half hour. And then there's all these moving parts and half the time it's raining. Like it's just, you really have to like being outside to come to a cover dog trial.
You have to like being in the woods with dogs.
Yes. You have to, and hence the name In the Woods with Dogs.
But the quail trial, there's a parking lot. It's a single,
it's a single course.
Course is the word I was looking for. Single course for all the dogs. It starts in the same place, ends in the same place. You can even see some of it, like half of it from the parking lot. But we grill out, families come, kids come. There's a youth steak.
Yeah, that's the one. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's a youth steak that's really just for fun, which is a blast because it's not a real competition. We just throw some birds and launchers and let the kids come out. And
Weston and Cash could run Daisy in that.
Oh,
I took Bridget and ran Bridget last year.
Sweet.
So like Lydia and Sylvia.
They can, I mean, we had our nephews come because they're not really into the dog stuff, but they were really interested in the idea of shooting the blank pistol. So they came and shot the blank pistol when I said shoot the blank pistol, and they were into that. So, and then they get prizes and stuff. So
it's a fun family. Like if you're going to come and watch a trial and try to get like, oh, I want to see what this is kind of about. Like that's
if you want to meet the people and like, be able to ask questions and see the dogs, that's a good one. But if you really want to see like a true cover dog trial, then you have to come to the woods for sure.
So the warm up here the last couple of days has really got me itching. There's bare soil out there. Do either of you know the woodcock migration?
I started watching.
Yes. So where do you watch? Because I've seen a few places where you can track where these birds are at.
So I think it's the Eastern Woodcock Migration Cooperative or something like that. So they've got a map online. I think it's Woodcock Migration or something. But I started looking at that, and this is our fall spring.
Yeah.
If you look,
they're still down. Are they in Louisiana?
Spring of Deception is what that one that Kyle shared said.
So there's a lot of birds still down south, but they did get their first moving bird. There's a bird that appeared in southern Illinois. So, and normally they in years past, they have been up here in early March. So
it happens quickly once they decide to come up, right?
Yeah.
And the forecast in the 10-day looks like above freezing for the most part, which means that the spring training season kicks in a little bit. You talk about wild birds.
Yeah.
Introducing puppies to wild birds. How do you introduce puppies to wild birds in a way that's productive for their long-term growth?
So because I have Easy at my disposal, my adult dog, and he's broke because he has to be for trialing, I use the crap out of him, whether he likes it or not. He was subjected to a lot of puppies this past or a couple, last fall, the fall before. And it was good for him to have Maven because it really proved his steadiness. Because Maven was all over the place and stealing points, and she still kind of does that a little. She's still got a little puppy in her. But I don't know. I don't know if everybody likes this kind of way of doing it. With puppies, there's kind of two places that I'll train. And one is there's no birds. We're just out for a walk. And where
you want them to go with you.
Yeah.
Stand still, come back.
Exactly. And so we're just bonding at that point. And I think setters, what surprised me about setters when they're puppies is they're really comfortable being far away from you, which threw me for a loop because I'm used to pet dogs and German dogs that want to stay close and be with you. And so I think it's worked well for us, and it's hard to know, is it the dog? Is it us? Is it a combination? But it's always worked well for us that we get our puppies out at a very early age before they can really run away from us and before they really think that there's other things out there. And we have access to private land that we can let them stretch their legs on. Really just building up that idea of like, we are doing this together. I'm not really saying anything or doing anything.
And that starts right when you bring them home, 8 weeks.
And it's mostly because I like it. Like I just want to, like Freddie came to stay with us for a little bit, and he and Maven are about 3 weeks apart. So they were little. They were like 3 months, I think.
Yeah.
And I was just taking them along, and they're farting along, and
wrestling,
poor Freddie.
And
Freddie had when he was little, he had really short legs.
Yeah.
And Maven was
cutest thing puppy ever.
Maven was she was older than him, so she's just running circles around him. And I have this great video of me and Maven here, And Freddie's just trucking it back to the house, like at 3 months old. And then he turns and looks back at us like, screw you guys. And he just keeps going because he's like, she's faster than me. She keeps beating me up. I can't run fast enough. The grass is too long.
Oh,
so
what a poor buddy.
But I just like taking them out. And it's just like, they saw a goose for the first time and they're like, what is that? And then they kind of, run up to it a little bit. And
so exposure to just life out there early on.
They're dealing with obstacles, which everything is an obstacle when your legs are only so long.
Right.
But they don't want to go away from you too much. And you're still pretty cool to them. And there's not really anything else to do besides go in the direction that you're going in. And so I start there, and so that's separate. And then they have to be, the timing has to work out well. It has to be a time where you can actually go and mess with wild birds. So like Maven and Freddie were born in the winter, and we had to kind of wait. They got a little bit of spring, but they were pretty young.
They were like 8 weeks. Well, Freddie was at least 8 weeks in like May. So
yeah, so he couldn't really do a whole lot with birds at that age. So then we had to wait through the summer for the quiet season to end. And then when we got Maven out, when she was like 4 or 5 months at that point, and we were in the woods, it was still really thick, like late July, early August, I think is when the quiet season lifts. And at that point, she's not going she's not in the cover. She's hitting a wall and Easy's ripping through it. You also can't run them that long when it's that humid. So we would just let Easy go and do our best to keep her off the trails, just to not build a bad habit. But there wasn't really any intention of making anything happen. But if Easy would go on point, we would try to get Maven in there. And for me, it starts of just like, let's walk in there. Like we're going to go flush the bird anyways. So bring the puppy in and try to call her in. And if she just kind of farts around in front of him and a bird happens to flush under her feet and she connects the dots and then goes back or sees it and then goes back and sniffs where it was and is like, wow, what was that? That's cool. There was one time where I literally just took the tail of her collar and walked her right in, and she actually ended up stopping and pointing once she hit scent. And then we let her kind of work her way in and
watch
flush
the bird flush, chase the bird. You want to build that, right?
It's what's interesting is it's like one of the only places that I think in dog training where you actually want your puppy to fail over and over and over again, because that's how they learn to be good.
Can you explain that a little bit further? Because I think that's an important step in the learning process for a dog.
Yeah. So
and then the handler to understand that.
Yeah. And that's hard. I've worked with a lot of owners that are like expecting the puppy to point and stay pointed. And I'm like, no, you want them to go.
You're encouraging it. You get excited with them when they do. Is that
so it's when I take it back to like my protection sport training that I did, and it's all predatory behavior. When you're raising little puppies in protection sports, you're flitting a little rag around on the end of a leash and teasing them with it, and you're building the confidence in that dog to make them think that they're like, basically you're saying you're chasing a rabbit, you're chasing a squirrel, and you can conquer this and you will always win. You will never, ever be afraid. You will never, ever feel weak. So then when you become an adult and now the thing you're chasing is a big man with a stick, you still think that you can conquer that. So you never let those dogs feel anything but powerful and confident.
Wow.
And bird dogs is the same thing. It's all predatory behavior, but we're like, go fail a bunch.
Yeah.
And by that, I mean like go in there and try to catch that bird and watch that bird outsmart you.
And that's a really good point. Then I had a really good point in terms of that confidence. Same thing. But instead of biting a big dude with a stick, it's I'm going to get off the trail and run in this thick, crazy woods that I've
and if
never
I
been
do
to.
it,
that might sound simple to somebody to leave the trail and just take your dog for your puppy.
That's the hard part.
If
you have puppies, you have to get in the crap with them. And I think I have encountered some people who have said things like they expect the puppy to go find the bird, and you have to be the bird finder when you're raising a puppy. So that's why I like to use Easy so that I don't have to be the bird finder.
It helps.
Because sometimes it doesn't work. So like my best moment with Maven, raising her up. You remember when we took Easy and Amos out and we found all those grouse in the tag alders, and it sucked back there, and they were like on edge the whole time, and it was just nuts. I went back there with Maven, and I'm walking through all those tag alders again, all the crap. And she's at an age where she's not really hunting. I mean, she is, but like she looks like she's hunting. But
give me an age.
6-ish months,
okay.
5-6 months. I think it was September. So still very green. Everything's very green, very wet. And we didn't find anything. There was nothing back there. After we found like 6 grouse, maybe the day before or 2 days before or whatever, I went right back to it. And I don't like to run puppies very long because they're babies. Like I don't want them, for one, I don't want them to get tuckered out. So where they start feeling like, man, every time I come out here, it's exhausting. And I don't want them to go in, if we're in cover, I want there to be birds. I don't want to like dry run in cover. We can dry run.
Isn't that why people say, let's go plant birds?
Right. So yes, but then a planted bird acts so different than a wild bird.
I know that.
And like you need a little bit of it, but you don't want to do too much.
Pigeons, puppies, let them rough them up, have fun, whatever. But then at some point they have to make that transition.
Right. Yeah. Yep. And it's a very fine line of, and like if you have to troubleshoot something, you might have to bring them back in for a little bit, but don't do too much. And that can be where it's kind of tough. And in general, I think less is more when it comes to any kind of planted or pen raised bird. I would rather not touch a puppy for like 3 whole years, never do anything with it, than do too much work on a pigeon.
If you're trying to make a wild bird dog.
If you're trying to make a wild bird dog. So, I think, if you don't touch any of that potential, any of that instinct at all, you don't interfere at all, you can still get them in and get them doing the right thing if the potential's there. So with Maven, we go and we walk, and I think it's like an hour by the time I get to the end of this stretch, and I still have to walk all the way back around and get back to my vehicle. And I'm looking on OnX, and I see that there's a logging road that goes straight through. And I'm like, okay, perfect. This looks like an easy walk. We're just going to get out of here. And I could tell she was kind of slowing down. I was definitely slowing down. And it was a pretty fresh cut. The trees were like maybe 3-4 feet tall.
Nasty aspen cut.
With huge, the big, huge leaves, big, huge green leaves. Nothing's in there. Nobody lives here. And we're just trying to get through it. And all of a sudden she goes on point. And I was like, okay. And I get up to her, and I'm still learning running bird dogs by myself. Like until I had my own dog, I never took Easy out by himself. That's Kyle's dog. And so I'm still figuring her out. She's still figuring everything out. I don't really know what any of her body, I mean, I know how to read her, but I don't know all the intricacies like I do now. So I walk up to her, and she is all contorted and nasty looking, like disgusting, like her tail's all like, it's just bad. Hackles on her tail are all raised up, and her eyes are all buggy. I'm like, ugh, what are you doing? What is that? And I get down on her level. Mom. Yeah, I get down on her level, and I'm looking at her, and I just look maybe like 2 feet to my left, and there's a woodcock sitting right there. And I was like, oh my God, we did it. And so flush the bird. I could have reached out and grabbed it. Flush the bird. And all of a sudden, it's just like boom, 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 boom. It took us a whole hour to get back out again because she just kept finding birds. And it was a flight. We were in this weird spot where they just came in and they're like, we're going to chill here for a minute. Wow. And I did my very best. I don't like to reflush birds, flight birds. And so I did my very best to keep her off of going and reflushing birds. And she's bumping them and running all through. And she pointed maybe 2 or 3. But most of them, she's just bumping them, and I'm just in heaven. I'm screaming, and there's videos. I posted all of my stories. I scream when we find birds.
So does Ben.
Hoot and holler.
So does Ben. High pitched.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. And I'm just shooting a blank pistol, and we're just like, it's a rodeo. And
promise, not another one.
we're just having a blast, and that I just kept going back to that spot every other day, every couple of days, and.
So it's the repetition for the dog and for you, obviously, but it's really the repetition for the dog.
That's why woodcock are great, because if you get into a patch of them in the spring or in the fall when they're moving, you can, you got to be respectful to them. That I always say that. You got to be respectful to them, but I'm not a hunter, and I still want to be respectful to the bird, but you get in and you could get 20 pointed in 2 seconds, and the dog is just like, oh my God. And that you can watch the wheels turn, and you can watch them go from bumping to pointing.
When somebody's, okay, so we're way into this conversation. Are you guys okay for a little bit?
Yeah, we're deep.
Yeah,
this
Big
is
Al,
the
you okay
danger
for a little
with me.
bit?
I do kind of have to tinkle, but I can hold it.
Okay. So your dog is bumping,
yes.
and there's frustration.
Yeah.
Right. So, but explain why that's okay, and then how to get past the bumping.
Everything we've ever bred or asked dogs to do comes from the predatory. This pregnancy did this to my brain. There's a word for it, but the predatory sequence, basically. So this wild animal, this wild predator, has this certain chain of events,
and that's a canine, the wild predator. Yep,
has a certain chain of events that they go through before they are able to attack and consume prey. And every domestic dog, every breed that we've ever made, we've said, hey, we love that. We're going to chop and screw that and make that work for us. And so, like, for a terrier, it goes all the way to kill. Like, do everything and then kill it. Then you have, like, livestock guardian dogs that have none of it. We've taken all of that away because you can't have prey drive to be a livestock guardian dog. We have herders that are all orient and stalk and all that. And that's kind of where our pointing dogs lie, in that orient and stalk. That's what a point is. I'm just stalking you. And so as a puppy, that's all wild still. They think, I have a chance to capture that bird. I have all this drive, all this instinct to capture that bird. I love birds. And I'm going to get it. It's right there. And then they see it and they're like, oh, there it is. And they work their way up to it. And then they run up on it like, now's my chance. And it flies away because it's way smarter as a prey animal. And they do that enough times and they learn, I got to be really stealthy at this. And then
we intercept that and say, no, don't move. I'm going to do it for you.
Well, so if you get your dog into enough wild birds, they should teach that lesson for you. And then you come in and you say, separate from that. So here you are as a puppy. I'm going to raise you up and let you just do all these crazy things and figure this out. And when I start to see that you understand, and at least like Maven's at the point now, I like my dogs very feral until I can't handle it anymore. Or like right up until the end where now the expectation is that you have obedience. So I haven't done a single thing with Maven to put banners on her. So she's still pretty feral on birds, but she has had enough experience with wild birds that she'll hold a point until I get there. So you can still shoot birds over her. You can still show a judge that she has a point. She's not going to you're not going to hear her in the woods, stop. And then you're like, okay. And you start walking and all of a sudden there she goes and she's off again. She'll let you see it, but she's still going to dive in and grab it. And I'm okay, or like dive in and bump it. And I'm okay with that because I want her to be
you can clean
totally
that up. That's
raw.
obedience.
Yep. Because then at
Say
that
again,
point,
Ben.
So that's you want. I mean, it's easy to clean that up. That's just at that point, it's obedience.
but that
you got to find the bird.
Yep. And we're talking in
Yes.
a puppy here.
Yeah. So she just turned 2. She has a little bit of derby left in her where she's not expected to be broke. So I will probably start this spring breaking her out and having her stand. But so now I know that she can stand though. Like she knows what to do. She consistently points birds. She knows this bird is not, I'm not going to have a chance at this bird until at least somebody gets here. I'm not going to get it on my own.
I'm going to still try though.
I might still try. But then at that point, that's where you put in the piece that says, just wait a second. I'll get that bird for you. I'll shoot that bird for you, or I'll make the bird fly or whatever. But I like to see, and I'm not an expert. I've only done this. I haven't even actually broken my own dog out yet. But that's my preference, is to let the dog show you when they're ready. And if they can at least hold the bird, they're ready.
Now, as another dog trainer, Ben, that trained several dogs yourself too, would you agree with that same path, or do you like to take a different path?
No, that's 100%. Like they let them knock, chase. Like again, it's like I said earlier, obedience is easy. You can make them stop. That's not the hard part. What you need though is you need a dog that is all consumed by finding the bird.
Yep.
That is what you want.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's all fun and games. And then when you break them out, and you could even be doing this independently, but you're doing it outside of birds. So birds are fun. This is so fun. This is great, exciting. But then on the other side, I'm also teaching you to stop.
Yeah.
Like just stand still, right? Whether it's, continuous stimulation on the collar, whether it's continuous stimulation on the wonder lead, on the flank, whatever. And then eventually, to Hannah's point, when the dog is ready, right? When it is showing you it's got the mental maturity to be able to handle it, that's where you intersect the two. And that's where breaking a dog comes.
I wonder if we should do a full podcast on how to break a dog.
Oh, it'll take a full podcast. Yeah, for sure.
There
But
might be a whole like,
hey, write
we
that
should
down,
bring
please.
a dog.
How to break a dog.
Yeah. So I think that's where people that I've talked to run into issues is they worry so much about the dog pointing that when they see the puppy bumping birds, they want to interject. And I think there's so much room there's just too much. Maybe there are people that are really good at introducing that concept early and they know like they can read the dog and they can do it without it having any fallout where the dog suffers and other stuff starts happening because you put too much mental pressure on the dog. But I would rather the dog mostly learn and then you just come in and say, okay, great, now stay there. Because I think some people get a little worried about it and they'll maybe like woe their dog into a point or they expect too much too early or they do too much planted bird work and then the dog just gets too in their head.
Every great bird hunt needs great native habitat. We all know that. Those that want to grow the best habitat on their own landscape know that one of the biggest obstacles to getting great native habitat is planting it correctly. Our friends at Hoxie Native Seeds felt this pain too, so they built the Hoxie Native Seeder. There's no wiring, no hydraulics. Using the best planting practices learned through decades of hard work, the Hoxie Native Seeder was designed to bring you the best native cedar on the market today, and it's half the price of the other guys. Find out more about the Hoxie Native Cedar at hoxienativeseeds.com. If you're active in great outdoor adventures, then odds are good that you have gear, equipment, and toys that you need to haul. Well, our friends at Aluma Trailers, they've got you covered. Their trailers are built by a hardworking team in Bancroft, Iowa, right here in the good old USA. They have models for all of your hauling needs, from ATV and UTV trailers to snowmobile, motorcycle, car trailers. And, well, basically, if you need to haul it, they have a trailer to tow it. Trust me when I say that Aluma Trailers tow gear like a dream. Their trailers are constructed out of lightweight, strong, corrosion-resistant aluminum, and they are 100% maintenance-free. Plus, they come with an industry-best 5-year warranty. Visit alumaklm.com to find a trailer that fits your needs. See, I think, you start saying all this stuff, and that's where somebody who's new to it or has a puppy, and then there's the confidence that is lacking because of lack of experience, and then they don't necessarily, you overthink things, or like you said, too much.
And that's inevitable.
Too much planted birds and too much of this or not enough of this. It's hard to, until you've done it enough, you don't know.
And the one kicker here is that statement of your expectations. That is what really gets a lot of people in trouble, because they will compare where they think they should be at with the dog. Every dog's different. So I think my dog should be here, or I see Maven over here who is rock solid, and Fred's just a little demon, right? Who's coming in ripping stuff. It's like, okay, I'm gonna get more hands-on with you, and I'm gonna make
it
happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, my level of frustration with this dog here had reached almost I was at my limit with her.
Yeah.
And then here I see George come up with an 11-month-old pointer that's just locking every single bird covey or wherever, and here she is at 2, just ripping through, and I'm like, I gotta produce a TV show and I can't with this thing.
But the interesting thing is, like, so you worked on breaking Daisy at 6 months, 7 months old.
Oh,
yeah.
I think we started putting some real.
You got her on the belly band
training processes together when I brought her home, but I didn't have that relationship with her at 8 weeks. I didn't have any relationship with her until she was 6.5 months or 6 or 7 months, and she had already had her. This is my life. This is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And so then I had to take all that away from her. So that I think our story is a little bit different in this dog.
Yeah. And then that was Amos too. I mean, first time I dropped him in Montana, he was 6 months old, something like that. And he proceeded to run like 0.75 miles. You know, it's bad when your alpha or your 550 or whatever switches from yards to miles. It's like, it's like, that was insane thing with Daisy. It's like, I
kept losing her at 1.3 miles. That's where I would, and I lost her at 1.3 miles in North Dakota and Montana and Minnesota. Yeah, that's her. Well, that's where it just clocks out. My particular handheld. I feel like I needed to get that longer.
I had to put mine on.
Yeah, I saw that when we went there. There was one day we lost Amos together.
But you have to, like with them, we had to. Like I had to put him on the wheel post, teach him to stop because
you had to have brakes.
I had otherwise he would run out of the country.
Yeah.
And so I had to stop him. But
I wonder that sometimes with Kyle and I, like if you ask Kyle, like, why was Easy so successful? And he's like, I don't know, it's just the dog. And it's like, well, it was you too. But it's hard to know sometimes, is it really the dog? Is it me and what I did? Was I really good at that? And I just really raised a nice dog? Or what are we working with here? Is it a combination? And I think in the case of, and then talking about people like, oh, she doesn't hunt, she can't say anything. I think there might also be people that are like, well, she's got really easy dogs. So what does she know? Right. And I'm like, well, I don't know. Do I have easy dogs or am I really good?
Seems to me like you're stubborn enough to power through until you get what you want out of a dog. And I actually had made a note here I have a note here to say, is it the dog or is it the handler?
But sometimes it really is just a really good match or a really bad match. And I will say with our two particular dogs, I think Kyle knows exactly what he wants. And he found dogs that fit that. And so like the people we got our dogs from, well, particularly like Robert Jones, who I got Maven from out in Montana, he handles dogs in a very similar way that Kyle and I do. So it makes sense that he would produce a dog that responds well to the type of handling that we do. And so sometimes you just get that where like my setters, people are sometimes surprised that I'll let them out with no collar on and we have pheasants 100 yards out our back door. And they know they're there, but they're not going to go because it's a potty break. We're just going potty right now. The second I start walking in that direction, they're going to go. But some people don't have dogs that can't do that. And that's not something special that I did. That's just, we're well matched with our dogs and I trust those dogs and it's just worked out. So every dog is definitely different. Every person is different. Every relationship between dogs is different. Every breed brings something different to the table. Like a pointer is a lot different than a setter. And so, the comparison definitely gets the best of you sometimes. And I didn't care. I think that's why it worked out really well with me and Maven is that I had no pressure. And I was like so happy to have a dog that I didn't really have to do obedience with because I had done so much that it felt like a vacation for me to just like go do whatever you want to do.
It feels like you're not training because it's like, I don't know what like Sarah gets mad. It's like, your dog can't do anything. And I was like, yes, it can. But she's like, all right, make it sit down in the corner. It's like, well, he
doesn't know how to do
doesn't
that.
Sit.
No.
They're specialized in what they do.
And I will say, like, I can let my dogs be feral because they don't live in my house. So that's a whole other piece to it. Like I've worked with people that are like, yeah, but my dog needs to be able to heel because I have a family and I live in the suburbs and we like to walk our dogs in the neighborhood. So I know you're saying that you don't like to put obedience on the dog until you absolutely have to, and that includes heel, but I really want to, or I don't care about sit and down and settle in the house, but other people do. And so I can let my dogs be totally feral. But
I think what you've probably proven working with different dogs, hunting dogs, non-hunting dogs, aggressive dogs, you name it, 10 years of working with dogs, you can get a dog to do just about anything you want. Is that true?
Yeah, maybe. It depends. But yeah.
Okay. What's the biggest takeaway then from working with a dog? Or to try to give somebody some confidence in working with their dog that's most likely, most people are, hunting dog is a family dog.
Yeah.
Most people.
Yeah. I would say somebody told me once that you can buy more dog than you can train. And so I think if you have a dog that's got good genetics, there's not a lot you can do that's going to really screw that dog up. The other thing I tell people a lot is that behavior is not permanent. You can definitely build bad habits and dig yourself a hole that you have to get out of. But in most situations, there's very rarely things that you do that you just cannot come back from. You can usually dig yourself out of the hole enough to at least be successful.
Okay. So I want you to think about 3 habits that people are constantly breaking. And I'm going to come back to
drinking,
with their dogs. For the sake of time, Ben, we're going to come back to this. So think about 3 habits that you can help people to try to avoid or 2 do that are good habits. 3 bad, 3 good. Okay. Think about that. Ben, you're now on the board for the RGS, Rough Grouse Society. Why and what are you doing?
Yeah, so the Rough Grouse Society and American Woodcock Society, it's the only conservation group in terms of birds that is focused on a forest ecosystem. So prairie, great, whatever. RGS is solely focused on creating healthy forest habitats. So, and really what it lies is just creating a diversity instead of, sure, an old growth forest is beautiful to look at, but the functionality of that for not only grouse and woodcock, but for many animals is diminished. So they are focused on creating these healthy ecosystems. And there's no arguing that the grouse populations, woodcock populations have been declining. You look at Ohio, heck, you look at Pennsylvania. And a lot of that has to do with the lack of habitat or the lack of forestry. So they need successional drivers. They need fire. They need logging. They need something to take that old growth forest and create that stem density, that diversity. So
can you burn these forests? Can we ever get back to regular burns? Because we've eliminated wildfires to the best of our abilities, right? We try to put them out the second it happens. Before we managed the land, they were regular and they weren't as big because they were regular.
Yeah.
Now when a fire goes, it burns hot. It burns bigger than ever because the habitat allows that because of the way it's been managed by us.
Yeah.
So managing it now, that's obviously your number one goal. Just like Pheasants Forever is a habitat organization, Grouse Society is the habitat organization, Ducks Unlimited is the habitat organization.
Just looks a little different.
It's just different habitat.
Yeah. And unfortunately, you look at Smokey the Bear. Kids, if you see Smokey the Bear, yell at him. He was the most successful, worst campaign for wildfire. Wildfire is a fantastic tool if used correctly. And to your point, you look at what happened in California. You know why that got so out of hand? It's because that hadn't been burned, that hadn't been managed, that hadn't been thinned. So it creates this catastrophic event.
I never knew that. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's like, because they call it a historic fire regime.
You look at Wyoming this year too. They had multiple catastrophic fires. And I think most people that live out there that work on that land would explain it to you and say, because the whole thing can erupt and go and burn hotter than bigger than ever, it's harder to eliminate. It just keeps on going, and then it's catastrophic versus these small little ones that
or
eventually,
even if it's a large scale one, but the fuel load isn't there to sustain like this giant racing fire that's going to create all this heat and trouble. Like, for example, in our area, I think the historic fire regime is like 3 to 5 years. So a lot of this stuff is designed to burn every 3 to 5 years.
But it might not be touched for 50 or 100.
Right. And that's where you get that, unless you can introduce mechanical. So whether that's mowing, whether that's thinning, but there has to be some sort of driver.
Disturbance. Is that really a disturbance? I mean, you look at the OnX layer, disturbance, right? So RGS, their goal is disturbances, man-made now.
Yes, and this isn't. I want to log everything everywhere. It's creating that diverse mixture of habitat, which grouse and especially need to thrive under. They need mature oak trees because you look at a crop this year, you probably saw acorns in it, right? So they need those
diversity. They need old, young, and middle age. They need it all.
Yep.
Edges. They need that mixture. So is this attainable? Is this something, I mean, now that you're a grouse hunter, you grew up a grouse hunter, you understand the habitat, you know what they need. Now you're on the board with others that are like-minded. Do you feel like you can do something here?
Yeah. I mean, so Ben Jones, the CEO, he's brilliant, very smart. He fundamentally changed the direction of RGS. More, it's like, hey, biology that's great, but we know a ton about these birds already. Let's focus all of our effort into habitat, right? Into forestry, into working with both private and public agencies, government agencies to try to make changes on a large scale, right? How do we actually foundationally make an impact to these birds? And so like their team, like they've got that covered really. Kind of one of my goals is to be able to get that out, that information, make it digestible, help the public understand.
The non-hunting public, though?
Because
isn't that who we really need to reach?
Yeah. I mean, for that problem, especially when you talk about like an old growth forest, like how that's beautiful. Well, this is beautiful too. This is what animals need. Like, yes, that is certainly true. But even hunters, like if you are a grouse hunter and you do not support RGS AWS, I would really encourage you to do so. It's $35, guys and girls. Like it's not a lot of money. And this money is going back to supporting the birds that we train on, that we hunt, that we love so much. Same thing with Pheasants Forever or North American Grouse Partnership. Like $35. Like you go to a gas station tomorrow and go in and buy $35 worth of snacks.
Mm-hmm.
So
what's your steps moving forward now with the organization? What's your role there on the board? Are you one of 10? Are you one of 50? I mean, what does it look like internally?
I think there's like a dozen or so maybe people on the board, and each person have their strengths, and whether it's finance, whether it's like conservation delivery, lots of strengths.
What are your strengths? What do you think? Why did they pick you?
Well, that's a great question. I have no idea.
I don't either. I don't see it. I don't know what they see in Amanda.
Yeah.
I could send some videos from the dance floor at my wedding.
I am a great dancer.
That might,
So
I don't know if that translates, but that might be like.
Kind of like we were doing earlier. I can go to the doodle derby.
Yeah.
But yeah, so really, I've my background has been in the hunting industry, the outdoor industry since I've started working.
Your college degree is in natural resources.
Yep, exactly. Yep. And so a lot of it is just I understand the industry. I can help forge partnerships as well as find effective ways to communicate with our audience, right? And that's the big thing. It's like, if I would ask a lot of people, they don't actually know what RGS does or AWS does. So it's like, how do we effectively communicate that? And really, one of my big goals is to just, and Pheasants Forever has done a great job of this, but create a community.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want this to be a banquet that you go to and you're done. Like this is, creating that experience, that camaraderie around it. So when people feel like they're a part of something, then that's when they want to help give back, grow. It's no different than the Minnesota Grouse Dog Association. Mm-hmm. It's no different than any other club.
That's like when we were on the stage on Saturday night, we talked about, I looked out there and I saw dozens of people that I cut trees and invasives with, that I had lunch with out there on a tailgate, that we have these friendships, relationships, because we're working on the land together. Your hands are getting dirty together. And that to me makes it feel like we're in this fight together. And then good things are happening there. That chapter of the year for Pheasants Forever happened because of a bunch of people that are in it together. So it can happen with the grouse dogs. It can happen with the RGS chapters in different parts of the country too. One piece at a time. Do this project together and it grows, it spreads.
Yep. And that's the biggest thing. It's like, if you know what they're about and you're passionate about it, you're probably going to tell your friend and get them involved. And all
Bring
of a sudden,
friend.
Yep. And all of a sudden they tell another friend, and it's that word of mouth that is the most effective mechanism at really getting out any message.
Well, I'm excited to stay on the journey with you on that. Congratulations on being elected to the board. That's a
Frank.
big achievement. I'm proud of you, buddy.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to end it with this.
I don't know.
Al's
I got
got to
really
go to the
excited.
bathroom.
I know,
over
me
there.
too.
So,
all right.
I do too. I can't believe how long we've been talking here.
I can.
I should have
Ben should have warned
separated.
you.
Not me. I'm
You
in
knew
it.
this?
I'm good for 2-3 hours.
It's
Oh,
just
yeah,
cool
we
for
can
bringing
keep
two
going.
friends into here.
I know.
Yeah.
Well,
And me.
there's great information
If
in
you
both
ever,
of their minds.
if you have me back, you got to block out a lot of time. This
We're
is
gonna
going to be like
we're
a
gonna break
2,
it.
3, 4-parter.
I got another topic I'd like to talk about first.
So I learn something all the time. This is our first conversation together, and Ben suggested, like Hannah would be great to have on because of the knowledge. I can see it. I didn't even get to any of the questions that I had here, because once we start
This
talking,
happens every time.
This happens every time. I don't even know why this
What
is
were we
here.
supposed to talk about?
I know, exactly. I just make sure I have my dates for the live show on there. So I had it open so I could make sure I had the name of the place and the date. So anyway, that's the only thing I've really looked at. Didn't get to any of the other questions. So let's do 3 good habits, 3 bad habits. Maybe we have to sum them up because I think we've been going
I don't even
for a
know
while.
if I have 3 of each because I got pretty excited about what Ben was talking about. So I think the biggest bad habit, the most common bad habit is just rushing, is putting too much pressure too fast. And like you said, it comes from that lack of confidence in yourself. I think it also, I see it sometimes when people are going breed to breed, if they don't have a lot of experience with one. Like I see it a lot with people that go lab or German dog to setter or pointer, because they are pretty different. And the way that you want to raise them up, I think, is pretty different, especially lab to setter. And it can be pretty nerve-wracking going from a dog that's naturally at your feet and wants to work with you. And that's not a knock at all. It's just, that's, people buy them for that reason. And then you have a little setter puppy that just chucks a deuce and they're gone.
So can
Same
I say
thing with
this?
pointer and setter.
Mhm.
Yeah. Can I say this though? If you know somebody that you trust, they have dogs that you've seen, so then you can say, yes, I like what I see there. How did you get there? What is your training method? Okay. The silent command system from the Huntsmiths. Okay. Trust then that it's going to take time, but you have to choose something and then just see it through.
Yeah,
it might
and I
not
said that to
happen.
my pet dog clients too. Like every trainer is going to have a different way of approaching something, even if the big picture is about the same. The little nuances are definitely different, and the way they explain it is definitely different. And it's definitely, I just said definitely a lot. It's okay to start something and be like, this either is really not making sense or I really don't jive with it. Maybe you just hate it straight up, or you don't feel like you connect to the person that's telling you the information. And so you don't feel like you're comfortable asking questions or whatever. It just doesn't make sense to you. You can totally abandon it. Just leave and start over. But people often do that too quick because they want it. If they think that it's supposed to work tomorrow and it's not, and you bail, that's not how. You have to stick with it.
It might be months.
Yeah.
It might be a season.
Maybe years.
And it could be changing your entire perspective on the dog. Like when I worked behavior mod, I really had to reteach people how to look at their dog and perceive their behavior. And I've had clients that I've had tons of success with, and then they get excited about the success and they get complacent, and all of a sudden they're like, how come the dog's doing the thing again? I'm like, well, you stopped doing the thing that you're supposed to do.
Got to hold them accountable.
Yeah. So the process, you definitely have to trust the process, and you might shop around in the beginning to find the process that feels right. It definitely, you have to click with it. But once you find a place that you feel good with the trainer or the whoever, stick with it for a while and see it through.
Yeah. Well, that's why I think it's so valuable to see it in another dog and then say, what did you do to get there? What was your method? What did you, and then you can know that dog got there by this. So it's kind of like it builds that confidence for you.
Yep.
Then you just have to do the process to get there.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think I've talked with a lot of people that have gone into setters or pointing breeds in general that struggle with the range particularly, and they feel like the dog is blowing them off. And that is really a conversation about perspective. And I've had people bring me dogs and be like, can you just run my dog and tell me if I'm crazy or if that's normal? Like
most of the time, are they crazy because the dog is doing what it's supposed to?
Yeah. Like I had a couple send me their dogs. They had an adult dog and a young dog, and they're friends now, but they were training with NAVDA because that was as close. That's the only thing they had. And the people that they were training with were not giving them the right information for a setter. They were like, we were at my in-laws farm and they showed me a field that was maybe 40 acres. And they were like, our training field is this big, split in half. And we have to run 2 dogs at the same time in those little, and I'm like, that is not enough space for a setter. And so they have their adult dog. The husband was like, don't ever let him outside off leash without a tracking collar on. He's hot. He doesn't listen. He whatever. And we ended up figuring out that they weren't using the e-collar correctly. And so they were waiting too long. And so he's way out there having the time of his life, and they start nailing him. And he's like, I don't care. And you have to, if you're going to use that tool, you have to build it into your communication so that it's effective.
Starts with the command lead.
And
the trivia, number one trivia question. Yeah.
So you need to you need to be able to communicate that far to be able to bank on it. So we figured that out. But I took the dog out and I was like, man, this dog is I like this dog. This dog is fun. I'm having a blast with him. He is hitting everything he's supposed to. He looks great. And so they came to get him and he was like, was I just off? Was I wrong? And I said, you are super wrong. Your dog is fun, dude. And I'm like, it's uncomfy because he's running full tilt.
It's different. They don't know.
What is your, T. Frank, what is your favorite dog training quote of all time?
Oh, gosh. So after 2 years of Miss Daisy running off, every world-class dog trainer that I talked to would say, you can pull a dog in, you can pull a rope, you can't push it.
Yes.
Meaning like you can bring a dog back in, reel him in, but you can't force him to go out there. And every one of those trainers said the same thing. If you don't want her, I'll take her.
Yeah.
And
we like a dog with purpose.
And then, did people tell me that after, I'm like 1.3 miles, an hour and a half to get her back. And then, don't worry, you can pull a rope. And like, if one more person, and
I've never seen you get that fired up. And I was like, well,
okay.
If one more person says you can pull a rope in, you can't push it, I'm losing my mind. Yeah, exactly. But it obviously,
when you have a dog like that, there's a particular couple
and now
of
Ben
people
and I
in
were
my
talking puppies the other day on our way home, and all I want is a dog that goes out there.
Yes,
and
right?
Now that I know it and I see it and I want it.
Now you know what to do to harness that.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah.
It's so fun to work with a dog. It's so fun to see the light click. When you were when you were on your hands and knees and you saw the woodcock and you started screaming high pitch, like that joy is fun. That's why I don't need to have a shotgun in my hands to enjoy the whole process.
His puppy, he had a short hair puppy. Ben Mergens, he field trials with us and he got a short hair puppy and sent it to me. And I was like, oh my God, this is my first like real bird dog. And I sent him a video of his dog finding a bird on the Barrens, a sharp tail on the Barrens in Wisconsin. And I was screaming. And so I took the sound off and I sent it to him. And I was like, I took the sound off because I just sound like a maniac. And he was like, send me the sound. I want to hear it. And I was like, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
But so I think rushing and having the wrong expectations is definitely, or having too many expectations and like trying to make something happen with these dogs definitely can hurt. I think with setters, that's just what I have experience with. I think you push a dog into one of two camps. They're either going to be way too close and they're not going to go because you put too much pressure on them and they're like, I'm afraid to leave. And I think that's what everyone's afraid of too, but then they still kind of walk right into it sometimes with too much handling. Or you have a dog that they are plenty confident running away from you and they're like, you suck to be around, so I'm just going to leave. And people are afraid of that as well. But I think more so hunters don't want a dog that doesn't go, especially if you know enough about setters and you know they're supposed to go. You really don't want to people are afraid of that, but then they still hammer on them a little too much. I think it's a misconception that these dogs are soft. I think generally if someone comes to me and says like, oh, I don't like those dogs, they're soft. I'm like, well, that just tells me how you like to train dogs, which is fine. And you pick dogs that work well for you for that. But I think you have to have a little bit of finesse with a setter or a pointer to build that relationship and not push them into one of those and find that balance between wanting to go, but also having the brains to know where you're going and you're not just going for the sake of going, but you're actually, that's something I see people fall into too. Like people that follow a lot of setter people, but don't really know much about setters. I've seen people fall into the camp of like, well, my dog's going 900 yards. So why aren't they good? It's like, well, where though? What direction? What's out there? Why are they? And you can't let them go that far if you know that they're not pointing bird or like they're not going to hold their birds. So there's a lot of nuance there.
Well, all right. Hannah,
Daisy's
got a pee.
Daisy's had enough of this.
We are over the 2 hour mark. So.
Yeah.
Are we really?
Yeah.
Al's going to the bathroom in the corner and a pop bottle over there. So I'm sorry for the long conversation. There's so much to get into. Ben, Hannah, I appreciate both of your time. The last 2 hours have been great. I love talking dogs. Obviously, I didn't get to any of my questions, which means maybe we have to do this again. Ben and I are going to be in Kansas City next week. We are pumped to spend the whole 4 days with everybody. It kicks off with a concert for conservation. We're having after parties. We're going to be on the show. We've got trivia. We've got live music, free beer, all that at the OnX after party Friday night. And then, of course, everything happening on the show floor. We're excited to head to Kansas City. We're excited for Pheasant Fest. It's the biggest party in the upland world, the biggest gathering of upland bird hunters in the world. If you know of something bigger, prove it to me. Otherwise, I'm going to stick with it. We'll see you there. We'll be back next week with another episode of the Flesh Podcast.